welcome to NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round in the ever much loved and ever popular NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship Season 9 as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing and proudly powered by Doble Motorcycles. The season makes its way into its final third and with round number 8 on the card out of 10 we have made our way back to where the season began and we're here once again at the Donington Park Racing Circuit. Located near Castle Donington in the county of Leicestershire is a circuit that is synonymous with motorsport in the United Kingdom and where Silverstone nearby to it may be considered the home of British motorsport. Well, if that's the home, then Donington Park is the beating heart because it is right at the centre of all the different parts of the United Kingdom and it's the one venue that argues the most accessible of them all, whether you be heralding all the way from the Highlands of Scotland all the way through to down the southwestern corner of England in Devon is a circuit that many will pilgrimage their way up to, whether it be racing driver or spectator, because it's right at the heart of the United Kingdom and with it, it really is at the core of what makes motorsport special here in the UK. But with the fact we returned to the circuit, we opened up, of course, at the national layout with its fast-flowing corners. It's 10 corners in total. But here today, we've added an extra 2 as the drivers we take on its 2.49 mile variant known as the Grand Prix layout, introduced in order to bring together plenty more major international and national racing, where it's a circuit that maintains the flow and rhyme of the national circuit, but adds into it 2 extra hairpins and some short straights with it, which means it only opens up opportunities for our drivers to do further battling today. And goodness me, we can expect some brilliant battles today as our drivers make their way towards the crescendo of their championship campaigns. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side, and you can be tuning in via one of 3 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Of course, you could be tuning in right now via one of the 2 official NXTGEN Racing media channels, one of which is on YouTube at youtube.com and search your NXTGEN Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube. Alternatively, we have our official Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. You can be tuning in via Facebook, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via that platform. And lastly, of course, we have the unofficial broadcast, as always, available on Twitch, and that's at twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. But regardless of what media platform you tune in via, you'll get the same broadcast. In the commentary booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141, or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now I bring you all your racing action as it unfolds from today's racing, indeed for the entire season campaign. But as we get set and ready for another round of racing, our schedule for tonight is as follows. Times in British Summertime, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1, UTC +1. And as we can see, in approximately what will be 17 minutes time, we make our way into our qualifying session. In the grand total of 15 minutes in duration, and all of our drivers will be looking to go out there. In fact, 20 minutes in duration, as I say, and all our drivers will then eagerly be going out there straight afterwards in order to try and give it their utmost in order to come away absolutely victorious. But who will be victorious over 3 races? Well, first race, well, that will be at what will be at 8:20 this evening. 13 laps, all the drivers looking to go for gold there, and all 3 of our races being 13 laps, with the second immediate following afterwards, and that will be at approximately 9:10 tonight, if not slightly earlier. Then we rinse and repeat after race number 2, but before we get to race number 3, and indeed that will be getting underway at approximately 10 o'clock this evening, we do have one question, and that will be who will be on pole for race number 3, and we'll cut to the commentary booth and do a live lottery bowl draw, as we always do, and see how all our drivers will line up for the final race of the day. But it's pleasant conditions here today at Castle Donington, where 21 degrees centigrade ambient temperature and a track temperature of 28 degrees centigrade prime racing conditions. It's a perfect day for racing in the UK, and well, let's set the scene as we make our way into this round. So as we can see, we are now heading towards the end of the calendar. Today is the 26th of August of 2025, and Donington Park's Grand Prix circuit plays host after our trip to Scotland on the 12th of August last time out. And the Knockhill International Circuit will Knockhill absolutely delivered 3 belters of races, completely unpredictable races all the way through. Indeed, many a driver emerging from there either with major points or major disappointment or somewhere in between. But the big stars really at Knockhill. Well, firstly, we got to see an absolutely huge performance from Mikey Doble, which saw him charge into lead of the Orange Overall Championship. But the other end in the Blue Prime class, meanwhile, we also got to see one of the most intriguing contrasts of fortune between the 2 main stars stars of the Blue Pro-Am class, and that being Mike Barber and Dylan Hunter, where Mike Barber had all the bad luck initially in the races. However, no matter how hard Dylan tried, he managed to find himself even in more arrears and bad luck compared to Mike Barber, and it means that their championship has now taken a different turn compared to what was expected after their racing at the Silverstone International Circuit only a couple of weeks before. But those were just a couple of the stories from Knockhill International, and we expect plenty more stories to come here today at the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, before of course we make our way to our penultimate round in 3 weeks time, and that'll be on the 16th of September that our drivers will be taking on the Silverstone National Circuit, after which they'll then be making their way down to the Garden of England in the County of Kent for the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Will bring the season to a close on the 30th of September. So some points available, but not too many. They're coming in short supply, and we're coming into at this round. How do the points stand, I hear you ask? Well, let's take you through the championship standings. We begin with our Orange Lobby standings, of which the overall Drivers' Championship is on screen. And as we can see, Mikey Doble now leading by the best part of 29 points over Luciano Witvoet. And the fortunes continue to swing back and forth between these two, with Witvoet leading going into Knockhill, but emerging on the other side, having a difficult round of racing. Meanwhile, Scotland definitely favoured Mikey Doble, and that's where the delta has arisen from. A further 40 points behind is Wojciech Rd8, and Rd8 who returned from poor health earlier on in the season, and well, he's back here today looking to go for gold, and can he get himself in closer to the top two? If not, he'll have Isaac Doble for company, a further 17 points behind, with Adam Delmont languishing in 5th currently, and wondering where exactly his championship's going to go, because he's not really getting close to the top 4, but he is gradually breaking away from the rest of the field. Speaking of the rest of the field, where it's the best part of 50 points back to Tom Davidson in 6th place of the Sim Racing Collective, still ahead of teammate Andrew Pike, as those two continue to try and soldier forward in their Honda Civic Type Rs behind Adam Delmont's own. And then we do come to the Honda as well, of Lee Horn on 139 points, only 1 point ahead of Gavin Gardner. In 10th, it's none other than Conrad Kula for Semper Racing, 131 points, and he is only 6 ahead of William Guthrie, who right now is trying to establish a semblance of consistency over the course of this season. And it's not because he hasn't tried or he is not Mr. Consistent, but he's had a lot of bad luck over the course of the previous rounds. He's best to rest, and behind him, by the best part there of what is 18 points, is Alex Meredith, before you come to your leading Pro-Am driver of Michael Lease on 97 points, 2 ahead of Reese Watt, and 1 further ahead of Ben Altrier, who completes top 15. To go through the top 20 then, it's Jamie Dorey, Lewis Delmont, Kieran Smart, Nick Clemens and Sam Van Ols, but see how tight it is between all of them as they chase the top 15 spot. But outside the top 20 in the overall Orange Drivers' Championship, whether you come to the 62 points of Matthew Addy, who is the best part there of 8 ahead of Benjamin Gregory. Both of them have definitely had different fortunes depending on whether you look at it for an overall championship lens or a Pro-Am lens, of which we'll see their specific Drivers' Class Championship very shortly. Stuart Weiner sits in 23rd, 3 ahead of Joe Doble, and then Alan McCain 25th on 44 points, 3 ahead of Yaroslav Sabula, and your top 30 is completed by Duncan Murray, Sam Smith, both on 33 points, but result count back separating the two of them. And then we have Alexander Paulik and Russell Fowler. But outside the top 30, the leader of the AMS there in the overall championship, Matthew Jordan, I should say, and well, he sits there on 16 points, 8 ahead of none other, in fact 7 ahead of Craig Tillerson. Tillerson, to be fair, has had a very different form compared to some of his rivals. He may not have got the lion's share of AM drivers' points, but with regards to overall finishing positions, he's definitely had the lion's share of some good points, only second to Matthew Jordan. Jonathan Collins sits behind Tillerson based on result countback, and it's a further point to Sam Brady and Marcel Fritsch, with Cal Murray and Mark Sykes completing your overall Drivers' Championship. As for the Orange Pro-Ams, meanwhile, when we adjust the points based on the class finishing positions, it's Ben Altrier who leads the way by only 9 points over Michael Lees, and it is absolutely tight between these two. And well, you can imagine that right now, with both of them looking to go for gold, well, both of these drivers here will be thinking to themselves, where's the opportunity to try and break away from the other? Don't forget Stuart Winers, who sits the best part of 27 points further behind theirs. He holds a 2-point lead over Matthew Addy in the fight for third, with Nick Clemens a further 2 points behind. And the name that everybody will be looking at today, in 6th place, Lewis Delmont, the championship leader going to Knockhill, but couldn't make it onto the grid due to being away on personal circumstances. Well, he's back today, but there have been no drop scores in the season. It means that right now he's got to pull off an absolute Herculean effort for the rest of the season if he wants to try and steal away the Pro-Am Championship, but never say never, because it can be done. However, right now on 242 points, he knows he's got to go for perfection today. Reese Watt is a further 3 points behind in 7th for JW Motorsport. There's a further 15 points to Sam Van Ols for Goldwyn Motorsport spot there, who's only ahead of Kieran Smart based on result countback. Alan McCain completes your top 10, and the prams are rounded out there, best the rest by Benjamin Gregory, ahead of Duncan Rye, with Russell Fowler and Sam Smith completing our 14 runners. As in the Orange Am class, well, here we can see it's Marcel Fritsch who leads the way, and well, he absolutely nailed it at Knockhill compared to his main rival of Mark Sykes, but notice there in third place, Matthew Jordan is rising very quickly and continues to close the delta to the top 2. Jonathan Collins, he leads the rest of the field in fourth on 162 points, 15 ahead of Sam Bradley, with Craig Tillotson and Cal Murray completing the Orange Am standings. As for the blue lobby drivers, well, we start with the blue overall championship and Mathew Cheverton. Well, how a week changed things around. Many of you may remember when he left the Silverstone International Circuit, he was absolutely wounded and gutted with the merger of the two lobbies going into the second half of the season, and it really felt as though it was a hammer blow to his championship campaign because he'd been leading the way and running comfortably at the front of the field for all 5 rounds, and at Silverstone International, nothing clicked together, and he was involved in several instances in the absolute treacherous conditions, and suddenly it felt as though he'd reset his championship charge. However, at Knockhill, he absolutely nailed things and was back to his best, and as a result has now reopened his lead all the way to the best part there of 80 plus points. But as he makes his way into this round, Ben Benneyworth is the man who tries to give pursuit, ahead of Slamir Jalvoski, the delta between them being 24 points, and then it's a further 46 to Mike Barber, who sits in fourth. Stephen Fry holds 5th currently, but only ahead of Dylan Hunter based on result countback. And then we have Lewis Mason, Nigel Stock, Joe Gibson and Piotr Jegowski completing your overall top 10. In 11th is Stanley Donaldson, and right now the Quaker Mass Motorsport driver is only the best part of 11 points ahead of Thomas Delaney, with Phil McDougall sitting in 13th place ahead of Andy Aldhouse, and Mark Hughes completes your overall top 15 for the Blue Lobby. Carl Thompson, Sean Doby, Mark Kent, Wayne Douglas and Andy Chell complete your top 20, and outside the top 20, not to be forgotten about, we have Marcello Reles on 54 points, double the points haul almost there of William Cutcliffe, not slightly more, who sits on 25, one ahead of Matthew Williams, and then we do have Stuart Johnson in 24th ahead of Gabriel Yilmaz. It's a further point to Roy Plummer, and a further 3 to Dwayne Hoffman, and then yet score any points, we do have Jeffrey Nordstrom, Andy Cow, Dan Mould, Jake Pitt, and Jeremy Nordstrom there, who complete your Blue Oval Drivers' Championship. As for the Blue Pro-Am drivers, when the points are adjusted, well, here we can see the differences in fortunes, because emerging from Silverstone, Dylan Hunter was the man to beat, and therefore was closing the gap very quickly to Mike Barber. But how a week has changed things at Knockhill, and Mike Barber's been able to reopen his advantage to 12 points. It's not much, but given the fact that these two right now tossing back and forth in their battle, well, you can imagine that these points are going to be worth prizes at the end of the season, and it could come down to a single point when all is said and done. Joe Gibson sits in third on 289 points, meanwhile, trying to close the delta there for Goldwyn Motorsports. However, he's got Andy Holdhouse not too far behind, 48 points behind to be precise. Phil McDowell sits in 5th and on 216 points. Well, after a race 1 and race 2 to remember at Knockhill, race number 3 definitely did not work out for him, and therefore Stanley Donaldson now only 3 points behind. Carl Thompson sits in 7th ahead of Matthew Williams, with Dwayne Hoffman and Jeremy Nordstrom completing the Pro-Am top 10. Next, Jeffrey Nordstrom in 11th on 6 points, and yet to go any points, Andy Cow, Jake Pitt and Lee Holmes. Coming to the Blue Am class, last but by no means least, well, right now it's Nigel Stock who leads. However, Lewis Mason is trying to close the gap, and well, 24 points is the delta between the two of them. In fact, it's a bit more than that, with some penalty points being adjusted between drivers and change of positions, and in fact, the delta there being the best part of 25 points, we should say, as he looks to try and lead his way. In fact, my maths was correct the first time. I do apologise. It is 24 points. Well, we went full circle on that one. But it'll feel like it's going full circle for Lewis Mason because he closed a lot of the ground over the course of Silverstone, only for Nigel Stock to open up a little bit more at Knockhill, and well, can he close it a bit further today? If not, Thomas Delaney could be the one to try and spring forward on 295 points. He sits in 3rd ahead of Mark Hughes, and Hughes right now has the close company of Sean Doby, who's only 7 points behind. Andy Chell sits in 6th ahead of Mark Kent, with Stuart Johnson ahead of none other than William Kirtland and Roy Plummer completing your top 10. Now Gabriel Yilmaz and Jordan Hogan completing your AM standings. But as we then make our way into the round, of course, ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce our circuit, and it is the Grand Prix layout of the Donington Park racing circuit. Located near Castle Donington in Leicestershire of England and the United Kingdom, well, this will be a circuit that you're very familiar with for the most of you, and indeed a big thank you to iRacing.com, not just for the brilliant simulator, but the absolutely superb track mats that come within it. However, the one difference here being the introduction of the 2 additional hairpins which span off of the S's at turns 9 and 10, whereas normally we would see the Roberts S's run a little bit deeper down the back straight, and that would be when the national layout differs from this Grand Prix layout. out. But otherwise, the first 8 corners are all the same around here, and with it come the brilliant elevation changes and the fast flying sequence of bends that we all know and love, whether it be Redgate at turn number 1, the run over Hollywood and through the crane of curves at turns 2 and 3, all the way downhill to the lowest point of the circuit at the old hairpin at turn number 4, and it's an uphill charge through Starkey's Bridge and turn number 6 at Schwann's Curve, only then to go hard on the brakes and snap over to the right-hander of McLean's at 7. Up the hill they'll go towards the highest point of the circuit at Coppitt's at turn number 8, and it's a slight downhill run into the S's as they'll very quickly make their way through the left into right chicane at turns 9 and 10, only then to find themselves very quickly going to the heavy braking zones of turn number 11 firstly for the Melbourne hairpin, and then again uphill into Goddard's at turn number 12. Well, there's a deceptively late braking zone, and indeed all the drivers will be trying to go for the latest possible apex, and that'll just be one lap of this circuit, and they've got 13 in each and every race. To give you a quick reminder of the rules, this is a fixed setup series with drivers provided with setups ahead of each and every race in a given round. Classes, in terms of our driver classes, have been finalised as the conclusion of round number 3, and there are no changes afoot today. In terms of how we set the grids for our races, well, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, and that's a given. In race number 2, we set it based on results of race number 1, so the winner of race 1 dictates the flowing order of the grid for race number 2, and in race number 3's grid, it'll be a reverse grid based on results of race 2, with the reversal position being drawn live from the commentary booth between 13th and 23rd place. And of course, we'll cut over to the commentary booth, we'll whip out the NXTGEN Racing Lottery Bowl, and whichever 2 balls we draw, we add the numbers together, and they will make up that reverse grid position. Each driver shall have 1 fast spray available in each race should they need it, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount or 30 minutes, whichever is the greater. Now, we must remind you that race stewarding is being conducted with an independent race director stewarding the races for track limit infringements and the deployment of the safety car. And also in qualifying, our race director will be keeping a keen eye on what our drivers do as they make the way out of the final hairpin, or should we say into it, because they decide to use the runoff area, they'll be extending the run to the start-finish straight, and in doing so, they will be banned from qualifying immediately. It'll be an immediate disqualification, and they will need to start from the back of the grid for race number 1. But beyond track limit infringements and the deployment of the safety car, we also will see their drive-through penalties, which may be served in 3 laps should our drivers get to a 5th warning with regards to those track limit penalties, but all racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round. We also do have success ballast, which continues to be in play and levels the field as much as humanly possible, as applied on a race-by-race basis overall and in the Pro-Am and Am classes for each of our respective lobbies classes. So whether it's blue or orange, you will see success ballast applied, and well, coming into qualifying in race number 1, it's applied based on the championship standings prior to the round. For race number 2, we update it based on the finishing positions of race number 1, and we rinse and repeat again for race number 3 based on how our drives finished in race number 2. And all those success values may be seen on screen, as you can see here. We're not going to go through all of them now, but feel free to pause the broadcast, take a screenshot, and you can follow along and allocate the success ballast that you know each driver in their respective championship will be taking into the first race of the day, indeed qualifying with it. And it's always interesting to see how they conquer the challenge of the extra weight in the car. But as we make our way back to circuit side, ladies and gentlemen, well, all the drivers are heading towards the end of this final practice warm-up session, all looking to try and get the best possible time they can behind the wheel, and as they do, there is none other Mikey Doble right now, Orange overall championship leader, who is looking to try and continue his run of form and looking to try and make it a 5th NXTCC title. Currently our defending champion from Season 8. He's the only driver to have 4 crowns so far. The only other champions have 2 apiece, and that being Jamie Dory and also Wojciech's Rd8, who you can see here. And we'll hit the Semper Racing driver in the number 80 Audi. Really has proven to be the one driver who is an absolute thorn in everybody's side, for the simple reason he absolutely knows how to get the most out of this Audi. Not just when it's got no weight in the car, but also he seems to find a magical way, even when we load it with 56.1 kilograms of success ballast, the maximum when he's been championship leader, he somehow manages to find a way to get this Audi to fly high and still be right at the front of the field. And well, it's been checked by the stewards multiple times, the car, and indeed Wojciech has just said he just absolutely knows this Audi inside and out. And to be fair, we can't blame him. He's an absolutely modest chap, I can tell you that, but he's a highly decorated TCR driver, and indeed, as we mentioned on the previous round broadcast, the only driver in the history of iRacing in the official series to hold the championship titles in the officials in a given season, both for the Open and fixed setups of TCR machinery. He really is that much of a monster, and regardless of whichever grid he's been on, he's won it at least once as he makes his way there to the end of the run out of turn number 11. But as he does so, we look to another Audi driver who's looking to try and take on Mikey Doble. That's Luciano Witvoet as he roars his way around, and we do say hello to a few of you there in our respective chats, including the YouTube chat there, Stuart Winus 61, and well, the Scotsman is going to be out there as he always is, looking to give it his all. And well, good evening to you, good sir, and I look forward to seeing you out on circuit, and I hope you're doing well. And we also do say hello to Andrew Chell there, or Andy Chell as he's also known, referred to on the broadcast, and he'll be racing in your blue lobby for Quatermass Motorsport, who says it's going to be a tough night, but fun though, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do. And we also do say hello in the Facebook chat there to Roger Pike, who says good evening from himself and Angie, and say hi to Handsome Stew for us if you'd be so kind. Well, Handsome Stew, if you are tuning in right now, I'm very pleased to say that you do have both Roger and also Angie tuning in on Facebook, and they say hello, and we say hello to Handsome Stew, the most good-looking man who tunes in, week out. Indeed, it wouldn't quite be the same if we didn't have Handsome Stew with us, and I hope he's doing well, and I hope you're all doing well in the Pike family. We also do say hello there to Katie Eames, who will be cheering on Verano Motorsport, Russell Fowler and Marcel Fritsch, which at the moment at least, I can't see them out on circuit. I think they've become a little bit camera shy. But as we do see a couple of drivers getting ready to park up as GBR sees their Mark Hughes pulls off the racing circuit, Will Fraser Austin makes his way on around as well. And well, as do see Stuart Winus confirmed, he won't be racing tonight due to work, but he does cheer on Track Scotland all the same, and therefore we will only have Kieran Smart representing the Scottish team, which is a little bit sad because we like to see the pair together, but still very glad to have you tuning in with us, Stuart, and I hope work goes as smoothly as possible because we're definitely missing you here, and it's not quite the same without the pair of you. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, practice time is complete. You know what time it is then. It's time for qualifying. Who's going to put it on pole? Let's find out. So as qualifying begins to get underway, all drivers will make their way out onto the circuit and look to get themselves absolutely set for perfection. 15 minutes of qualifying, we should point out. A slight error there on our schedule, which said it was 20 minutes, but it is our regular 15-minute qualifying session. And as quickly as that, everyone is piling their way out of the pit lane. And we can understand why, because 15 minutes is not a long time to try and get a good lap in, even when the lap around here is nowhere near the 2-minute mark. You've got plenty of laps available to you, but the one thing you don't have plentiful supply of is space out on circuit. Now remember, 2.49 miles is the length of the circuit, and you do have the best part of 40 plus cars rolling around it. You do some quick mathematics, and well, I can tell you, you do not have much space in order to try and get a comfortable lap as you make your way on through. And well, all the drivers right now are feeling as though they need the space as best as possible, as we do look to Quatermass Motorsport. Mike Barber here, current Blue Prime Championship leader, and he will know that he needs a good qualifying lap here in order to be able to try and stop this man, the previously DH racing driver in the number 26 of Dylan Hunter, from being able to gain further ground on him in the Prime Blue Championship. But as they all roar their way around, we do say hello there to Jack Pitters, who's cheering on his fellow Quatermass drivers. And I hope you're doing well, Jack. And we do see there Oliver Forstrom also tuning in. And well, Oliver Forstrom being a decorated GT3 racing driver for the Quatermass Motorsport team. And I've had the pleasure of covering his racing in other series. And very happy to have Oliver tuning in as he cheers on his teammates in the YouTube chat. And we also do say hello there to the Verano Esports official account. But with that, indeed, a lot of hellos there, and we'll say hello to everyone we can. If you haven't said hello, don't be shy, feel free to say hi. We don't bite here at NXTGEN Racing. The only biting you see is biting on the brakes into the heavy braking zones, of which we have several around the circuit. Well, what's the expectation for qualifying other than the fact that this is going to be a very crowded circuit, as it is pretty much a traffic jam coming down into the Melbourne hairpin at the moment, and a lot of drivers making their way out of the Goddard's hairpin. We can see there Joe Gibson, he's got pretty much everybody queuing up behind him. Well, besides the point of what is going to be a very hectic circuit, the other thing is that slipstream is going to be absolutely critical to putting yourself on pole around here. Now, it's not to say you can't have a fast lap in clear air, and a lot of drivers will pride themselves on the potential initial fast lap, as Joe Gibson running a bit wide out Redgate corner immediately puts him offline, and that is going to be one of the Semper Racing machines. I believe that is Wojciech Rd8 going up the inside him there, and Gibson all out of sorts. Phil McDougall now comes on through as well, and as quickly as that, we can see that Gibson's starting qualifying lap is going to be pretty much now another warm-up lap. But the point being around here, slipstream is worth the best part of up to half a second, given the fact you have plenty of short straights, and also you have a lot of zones whereby it's flat out around the lap. and being behind another car, which is going to be able to punch a hole in the air when you get some understeer, particularly as you make your way through the old hairpin at turn number 4, and also from McLean's at turn number 7. But the time you lose there, you make up for plentiful so as you make your way down the back straight here, coming out to Coppice and up towards the S's. And that's what our drivers will be chasing here, is the slipstream. However, those with no success ballast, well, I can imagine they will look to try and get a good bank lap in first, those who are feeling confident, and then they'll try and go all in trying to find somebody to work with. Of course, you've got a teammate here, so Lewis Delman is pulling Father Adam along at the moment. Well, the next gen green drivers are together out there, and we can understand if Lewis is trying to help his dad out, because his dad right now is feeling a little bit heavy with a bit of success ballast in the car. The best part there of 25 kilograms in the car, to be a bit more precise. And meanwhile, Lewis Delman has got no weight in the car because he's outside the top 5 of the Orange Prime Championship. So he roars his way around here. This is a golden opportunity for the pair to work together and put themselves right up there as the first flying lap's come on in. And well, the first lap to really go for is William Guthrie's 37.784, and we'll see how everybody reacts to that in due course. But looking to a Rhino Motorsport driver, and previously racing under the banner of WS Racing Esports, which he still runs the livery, but he is under the name of the Rhino Motorsport banner here, and he's a good friend of Rhino Motorsport. Here's Marcel Fritsch, your Orange AM leader at this time. And well, right now he's looking to try and bring a title home, and indeed he has had one previous title in the AM class in the number 7, and he's looking to try and make it 2. Not quite on the bounce, but still as he bounces away around the circuit right now, I can imagine he'll be feeling quite confident given the fact he has proven to be the man to beat in the Orange AMs all season long, until Mathew Jordan has really come to the foray, of which we do have Marcel Fritsch, Mark Sykes and Mathew Jordan here. So 3 of our Orange AM drivers together, all looking to go for the ultimate prize of some big points at the Donington Park circuit. But here he goes, and as he does so, well, that is going to be a slightly compromised line there, coming through Schwann's Curve and in towards McLean's. I believe that would have been the pro driver there from the blue lobby, backing off the throttle slightly, just trying to see who that was in the Audi. And well, we'll get you an update on that when we can, ladies and gentlemen. There was nothing intentional by them coming off the racing line there. I think they were just trying to step aside, and that was Ben Benneyworth, who's currently on his 3rd flying lap, but nothing is clicking together right now. Indeed, it is a very crowded circuit out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of drivers are stepping on each other's toes. Well, the stewards may have a lot of work cut out for them after the racing today, if there are a lot of reports of altercations in qualifying, because remember, qualifying is a little bit different from a stewarding perspective compared to the races. If you are the faster driver in qualifying, but you are behind a slower driver, if the slower driver is on a valid lap, the slower driver dictates the racing line and dictates the pace of that qualifying lap. So therefore, it does mean that for the faster driver, unless you can somehow find a way to overtake cleanly without compromising your own lap and that of the guy in front of you, you normally have to back off, and you've got to be a bit more tactical. Hold up a second. I sense there that was a Goldwing Motorsport car into the barrier. That was Joe Gibson, I believe, who was pointed into the barrier. What on earth had happened to him there? I think we might be able to get a quick replay to explain, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Gibson making his way down into the Gollard's hairpin. As he came on down, car went a bit deep, the number 7. A bit of a tap between the 2 of them, and in the end, oh no, that's gone very wrong. And I think, well, Joe Gibson and our number 7 driver of, well, that's not Marcel Fritsch, that's the 07, trying to discern who that was. Couldn't quite see it in the end. We haven't got a confirmation of that door number of the car, but the 2 coming together there, and well, Joe Gibson coming off the worst of the 2, being turned on around, but definitely not a happy moment for him, and he'll be very frustrated about that one. And that was Peter Jegorzelski. It was the 07 in the blue pro category, making contact there with his fellow blue class driver. And well, I believe Gibson now back onto circuit, but having lost a lot of time, a lot of progress as a result of that altercation. But as the lap times continue to come in and we make our way towards the halfway point of the session, it's Wayne Douglas who is the fastest driver out there at the moment, provisionally at 37.156. He was very quick, it had to be said, at Knock Hill. Remember, he did put together that absolutely brilliant pole lap and led the way in race number 1. But when the weight was put into the car into race number 2, well, suddenly it became the great equaliser, and he couldn't quite mimic the performance of race number 1 as much as he huffed and puffed. But that's what the ballast does. But as more lap times, come in, right now, Wayne Douglas, the fastest out there by 3.5 tenths. I think Luciano Witvoet will be feeling as though there's a bit more time to come as he tucks in behind the Aztec Racing and machine in front of him. And Witvoet across the line there does improve and slashes his delta to Douglas by half. Now 1.5 tenths on a 37.300. Or the World of Racing with STR Motorsports driver doing a fantastic job here. And what can he do in the Audi towards the very end? That is what we're waiting to see. What we've also been waiting to see perhaps is an on-board lap with one of our flying drivers out there. there. And we are going to get an onboard lap very shortly. We're not with Alexander Paulik in the cow livery machine as he backs off there, having taken the tow and jumps all the way up to 16th place, having no lap on the board up to that point. Joe Gibson makes his way on down to the round. The man who ended up in that altercation with Piotr Czegoslewski only a couple of minutes ago. Well, he's got the Audi back out there. They're able to get it repaired quite quickly. We do have a yellow flag for Wojciech Rd8. I believe he's been involved in a bit of an off, coming from McLean's up towards Coppice Bend. But he's going back together, and he's currently the 5th fastest out there. But with regards to that on-board lap that we promised, and we're not quite delivering it on them at the moment, well, I think we are going to get an on-board lap with a driver who's gone very well at Donington Park in previous seasons, and even in the current season, we're going to be looking to Isaac Doble. Will this, of course, be in the circuit back when we ran it previously, the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, which was the crowning jewel of his first ever NXTCC title, where he did take the Pro-Am Championship title in Season 5, if my memory serves me correctly. And as he makes way out the final quarter, will the man who became pro, the youngster, takes us around for a flying lap of Donington Park's Grand Prix circuit. So in towards turn 1 he goes, and as he does so there, no fear as he goes onto the brakes into Redgate corner, down to 3rd. Hold it, and feed the throttle in as he makes sure not to get understeered out wide, and as he makes his way now through Hollywood, which is going to be a blockbuster run here. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen, as he descends in towards the Craner curves at turn number 3. Through left-hander, completely unsighted until he finally gets the apex, and now sharply onto the brakes into turn number 4, chucks the car into the old hairpin, battles with understeer, a bit of weight in the car, and as he makes his way up the hill now, it'll be through Starkeys, and up towards Schwanz he goes. Open up Schwanz as much as possible here. He'll turn in nice and early to mount the curb, and then keeps over to the left-hand side, hard on the brakes, down to 3rd gear. Battling with understeer again. You can see a twitching at the steering wheel, and the car rolling out a little bit. This hasn't been the happiest lap for Isaac Doble. Now heading his way up towards Coppice, braking at the summit there. He can't brake over the crest. He's got to brake just on it, so you're unsighted at the braking zone. But for Isaac Doble, no fear as he makes his way down the back straight here and heading in towards the S's very shortly. Well, normally they get ready to go right, but now he's going to get ready to go left. Looks to his right-hand side and braking now about 125 meters of corner apex. Trail braking down to 3rd gear. Straight lines the 2 apexes between the bollards, and now heading in towards Melbourne. Now in towards the hairpin here, looks to his left-hand side for his brake marker. We'll use the marshal's post and the barn on the left-hand side. All the way down to 1st gear he goes. Nice and tight to the apex, and then feed the throttle in, gently as it comes. And well, in the end, decides to back off there as he comes towards the end of the lap in order to let a little bit of traffic through, and that will be one of the full tilt motorsport machines. But Isaac Doble will take us to the end of the lap as he decides to let the car run a little bit deep. He's allowed to do that as long as he doesn't use the runoff area to set up the lap. So Isaac Doble in the end aborting that lap, and I believe he did have an off-track at the McLean's corner at turn number 7. So Isaac Doble get ready to go again. So not the happiest laps, but the Double Sim Racing driver giving us a demonstration of what it takes to deliver a good lap around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. And now with 5 minutes left, he'll look to try and piece an even faster one together. We're just in front of him, the driver he was letting through, who did just set a personal best. That's William Guthrie, and he's moved up to 3rd place. 3 tenths off the overall pole time set by Wayne Douglas. But right now for the blue pole sitter, our orange pro drivers are all trying to close up behind him. In terms of a bit further down the field then, talking about our individual classes, well, currently it's blue pro and overall pole for Wayne Douglas by 1.5 tenths over orange pro pole sitter of Luciano Witvoet. That's the provisional. And then you've got to go all the way down to 11th place to see a variety in the running order, because this is where you will see a Pro-Am driver. And well, in fact, dropped to 12th now with Andrew Pike improving quite late on in the day to 37.594. But still, it doesn't change the fact that the fastest Pro-Am driver out there at the moment is the Blue Louise Phil McDougall, the CXR Project Black driver, who's looking very good in the Honda Civic Type R, and well, he's looking to try and get a little bit closer to the top 3 in the Blue Pro-Am Championship come the end of today. He's only got, however, the best part of what is 200ths over Orange Pro-Am's pole sitter as it stands currently of Sam Smith, and Smith makes his way around there in the Iris Esports Honda Civic Type R, and he's looking quite quick in it, no doubt about it, as he makes his way over the crest through Coppice Bend. And then you do have to go all the way back to 17th place to find the fastest of your AM drivers, and it's currently blue AM pole position for Lewis Mason in 17th place. He's looking terrifyingly quick out there in the Aztec Racing Hyundai Elantra, and well, conversely, all the way down in 33rd place is your fastest orange AM driver, and that is Mathew Jordan, who right now seems to be getting it all together compared to Marcel Fitch and also Mark Sykes. So therefore it is very different contrasting fortunes for our drivers. But with 3 minutes left right now, Mathew Jordan looking to keep mounting those points, and by the end of today, if results go his way, he may move into 2nd place in the AM Championship, and he would be able to leapfrog over Mark Sykes, albeit Marcel Fitch would still hold a comfortable gap, and we would imagine if it was to go that way, the gap would still stand at the best part of 70 points or so. But as Mathew Jordan continues to terrorise his way around the circuit and looking looking very quick indeed. Well, in fact, that's an invalidated lap there. He does have the yellow flag for the off-track, and well, that's proof as to a little bit more information that we now do have available to you guys and girls at home, is the fact that if a driver invalidates their lap, we will see a yellow flag in the timing tower every so often, depending on how much they've invalidated the lap. Small indiscretions don't always get picked up, but big ones definitely will. And Mathew Cheverton right now looking to get himself back together very shortly. But as he does so, well, can we get an on-board lap with one of the drivers? I think we can. I think we are going to get an on-board lap with the man we're spectating, as Mathew Cheverton heads on down towards turn number 1. As he does so here, well, we'll ride on board the AM driver and see what he can deliver. Coming in towards Red Gate corner, making it nice and tentatively in towards the apex, which is what you want to do. And now flat out all the way he goes. Remembering, of course, the Honda is the cornering car. It carries all the speed through the corners and under braking, but it struggles on the straight. And down the hill he goes through Hollywood into the crane of curves. Gets ready to bring the car to the left-hand side. And as he does so, down to third gear, chucks the car into the corner. A very smooth run through there. And now flat out all the way. That's a very nice line there for Mathew Cheverton as he heads under Starkeys and in towards Schwanz and McLean's. Now, how exactly will he conquer this? Well, he'll mount that curve nice and gradually and onto the brakes here, down from 5th all the way to 3rd gear. Very progressive in his downshifts. You'll notice he's spacing them out. He doesn't want to overspin the front wheels for aggressive downshifts. And up the hill into Coppice Bend. Nice and early on the brakes there. Not as brave as perhaps some of our prams or pro drivers, but taking his time through the corner. A little bit of traffic in front, but he uses all the track surface and plenty more. And he'll get a distant toe at the back of Sean Doble, who steps aside there as they make their way down the back straight. Now in towards the S's here, looks his right hand side for his brake marker and braking early there, braking about 160 metres of corner apex, but to be fair, gets a very good line for it, from 3rd getting to 4th very quickly, now down towards Melbourne Bend. Getting ready to bring the car to the left-hand side as he does hard on the brakes here all the way down to 1st gear. Let's go run a little bit deep, but some slight understeer just creeps in there as he goes to the apex, and as a result, not the perfect line for Mathew Cheverton, but up the hill he goes, in towards Goddard's, and as he brings over to the right-hand side here, hard on the brakes. You can't see the apex until you finally turn into the corner and hold in 1st gear. Well, this definitely has not been the best of endings to lap, given the mistake he made at the Melbourne hairpin, but for the most part, Mathew Cheverton looking very smooth out there. Does he improve from 34th place? And the answer is no, he does not, as he goes on to his final flying lap with 30 seconds left on the clock. There's not much more time to deliver for our drivers. And well, right now, who can move their way all the way to the very top? Can anybody dethrone Wayne Douglas? Well, we're going to find out very shortly. As meanwhile, a bit further back, we see Thomas Delaney there coming across the line. And well, he's not on a personal best at the moment. In fact, drivers seem to be struggling to improve a little bit, unless your name's Wojciech Rd8, who's leapt his way all the way up into 3rd. Luciano Witvoet's into the pit lane. He's thrown in the towel and also has Rd8. Wayne Douglas is looking more secure at the very top, albeit Mikey Doble is out there still trying to deliver. Conrad Kula leaps up to 11th place on a 37.594. And we also got Lewis Delmont, who suddenly jumps up to what is none other than 2nd place in the Orange Pro-Ams. And the bottom end of the top 15 is number 23 driver for NXTGEN Green. That'll be his final lap of the session. So gets here to Phil McDougall, who currently is the blue provisional Pro-Am pole sitter. Can he hold it on as Lewis Mason comes into the pit lane from the blue Am pole position in 21st place? I think he's feeling confident he's got it done. Marcel Fritsch, meanwhile, has struck back versus Mathew Cheverton and has taken provisionally the orange Am pole position in 33rd by 2 attempts over Mathew Cheverton. We'll have to see whether Cheverton has got a counter-attack. And in fact, here he is. He makes way on down and coming through Melbourne. Again, just runs a little bit deep there. The front end of that Honda not wanting to settle down from it. Just wants to overstep its mark. And I do wonder there perhaps whether he needs to be a little bit more aggressive under braking and get the car really firmly pointed in towards the apex. But then again, it's one thing. It's very easy to say in the commentary booth at the other end of the spectrum, of course, for our AM driver looking to get himself very comfortable with the car and trying to find that pace as he goes. But coming across the line, he did improve in the middle sector, but is it enough to move him forward? And the answer is no, it's not. Mathew Cheverton will stay 2nd provisionally in the orange AMs. As most of the drivers now coming towards the end of their final flying laps, William Guthrie will be one of the very last to deliver a flying lap here, with the lap time being just over 1.5 minutes, where he's right within the window to be one of the final drivers. Behind him there is none other than Isaac Doble. Kieran Smart's across the line, he's not improved. Michael Lees has improved to 37.965. What can Guthrie do here from 5th on the grid? Will he move further up? No, he won't. That's exactly where he stays. And Wayne Douglas in the end has parked up, and I think he's decided to practice a race start from there in the run up towards Gollard's. And will Matthew Addy here on a cool down lap. This will not be a valid lap given the fact he's overstepped 2 minutes from when we ended the qualifying session, so therefore he's either had a nightmare lap or alternatively he's just on his way into the pit lane. But that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and well, Wayne Douglas, much like at Knockhill, has absolutely delivered here when it's mattered most. By 1.5 attempts he's taken overall and blue pole position versus orange pole sitter Luciano Witvoet, who lined up alongside him on the front row of the grid, as Wayne Douglas there practicing his race starts tonight, and those are going to be pivotal to success. Some surprises further down the order, however. Joe Gibson down in 34th place, 4th of the Blue Pro-Am drivers. He's not had a happy qualifying session, and all the way at the back of the field, Mark Hughes with no valid lap. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to make our way to the grid for the first race of the day. So as all our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for race number 1 of round 8 of season 9 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, as brought to you on iRacing and proudly powered by Doble Motorcycles. And as we can see, Wayne Douglas lines up on pole position for Next Gen Black, and he is your blue overall pole sitter ahead of orange overall pole sitter Luciano Witvoet for World of Racing with STR Motorsports. On row number 2, Wojciech Rd8 for Semper Racing left it late in the session, but to be fair, did a fantastic job in the Audi, and he will be in the company on the second row of the grid of Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing. On the third row of the grid, William Guthrie starts 5th for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, ahead of Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing. It's close between them, only half a tenth, if that, between them. Then on row number 4, we had Adam Delmont for Next Gen Green, ahead of Joe Doble for Doble Sim Racing, with the Doble Sim Racing trio all lining up on the right hand side of the grid at 4th, 6th and 8th respectively. They may be going for a big score here today in the team's championship. Sam Smith begins this one in 9th place for iRacing Esports. He is your overall Pro-Am pole sitter, but he's also your orange Pro-Am pole sitter with that for iRacing Esports. Well done to him. That's a brilliant effort there, and he was on pole of the class by a sizable margin. Andrew Pike was a further half a tenth behind, and the Sim Racing Collective Esports driver completed your top 10. Then we did have in 11th, Conrad Kula for Semper Racing, ahead of Tom Davidson for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, with Alex Murder for WSS Racing and Lee Horn for Next Gen Pink line up on row number 7. Lewis Delmont begins this one in 15th place for Next Gen Green, knowing he's got a lot of work to do here today to keep his championship hopes alive, and he'll be in the company of your blue Prime pole sitter for CXR Project Black, Phil McDougall. Congratulations to Phil for an absolutely stellar lap. Peter Jegosleski lines up 17th for Semper Racing, ahead of Kieran Smart for Track Scotland, with Slamir Jarvosky for Semper Racing and Matthew Eddy for WSS Racing completing the top 20. Outside the top 20, 21st is your Blue Lobby pole sitter Lewis Mason for Aztec Racing. There he'll be absolutely pleased with that. Half a tenth faster than Jamie Dory for Next Gen Pink, and I believe those two got very familiar with each other in one of the braking zones on the practice yesterday. Behind them, Alan McCain for iRacing Esports starts 23rd, ahead of Alexander Paulik for World of Racing with STR Motorsports. And then you do have Michael Leash 25th on the grid for JWM, ahead of Mike Barber for Quatermass Motorsport, knowing that he needs to move forward from here, but the most important thing is he's out-qualified his main championship rival Dylan Hunter. Ben Aldrier starts 27th for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, ahead of his teammate Ben Gregory. And then on row number 15 to complete the top 30, it's Sam Van Olsen with Motorsports and Duncan Ryer, his teammate. But from pairs, we then come to two different teams, and it's Crest Autosports' Nigel Stock, who starts 31st, ahead of Dylan Hunter for Adapt Sim Racing. Behind them, on row number 17, it's Marcel Fritsch for Verano Esports and Going Motorsports' Joe Gibson. On row number 18, we've got Matthew Jordan, who in the end could not quite make it onto the orange AM pole. He missed out versus Marcel Fritsch by the best part of 2 attempts, but he was ahead of fellow orange AM driver Mark Sykes, who joins him on row 18 in 36th place. From the Next Gen Pink and WSS Racing drivers, we then have Aztec Racing's William Kurtler, 37th, ahead of Thomas Delaney for Next Gen Black, and then completing the top 40, Mathew Cheverton for Aztec Racing and Ben Benneyworth for Quatermass Motorsport. Keep in mind, Ben Benneyworth really struggling in qualifying. That's not what you expected to see whatsoever, nor the same for Mathew Cheverton. But behind them then, in 41st, Fraser Ostens for Next Gen Black, head of Andy Chell for Quatermass Motorsport, with row number 22 going to Sean Doby for 88 Tech Racing and Carl Thompson for GBRC. And then on the final row of the grid, Reese Watt for JWM Motorsport and Mark Hughes for GBRC. No valid lap time set by those two, and that is where they will be starting. But that is how they're all going to line up today for this first racer day, and we do have a grand total, ladies and gentlemen, of 46 competitors, and it is an absolutely packed grid, no doubt about it. But we are having a slight pause to us going to the green flag, ladies and gentlemen, and that is because we have had a technical issue for one of our drivers. They are being an opportunity to resolve the technical issue, and well, I believe if we can, that will be resolved within the next couple of minutes, and if it is resolved on time, then we will be going racing. I believe it's Mathew Cheverton Cheverton, who's had a technical issue, and we will hopefully be seeing him go green flag racing with all our drivers. If not, then for Mathew Cheverton, it will be the case that he'll have to start from the pit lane. He may start a lap or two down, or he may miss this race entirely and have to start his campaign at Donington Park from the back of the grid in race number 2. But that'll be at the discretion of our race director. Of course, is keeping an able eye on all proceedings. But whilst we do wait to go green flag racing, of course, Wayne Douglas will know it is only the best part of what is about 200 metres to that opening right-hander, if that. It's a short run, but he's in the company of Luciano Witvoet, and Witvoet will be very eager to try and get a best possible run. Here he starts on the outside of the grid, and, well, he looks absolutely eager to go racing. Both of them do, but we've just had the call to say, ladies and gents, we've got 10 seconds with Mathew Cheverton back on the grid. We are going to go racing with all 46 of our starters, and, well, for the first time at Donington Park today, the lights get ready to go on. So here come the lights, ladies and gentlemen, and for race number 1 of round 8 of the championship, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5, it's 5 red lights. And it's lights down, away we go here as all the drivers launch away. But as they do, a slow start there for Wayne Douglas. Luciano Witvoet also struggling off the line, and Wojciech Rd8 trying to part the seas between the two. They make the way in towards the opening corner then. It's 3 wide towards the apex, but Witvoet backs off. Rd8 trying to go around the outside here as they all roll the way underneath the blimp camera. And as they do, still side by side between them. A couple of drives going out slightly wide coming out of Redgate corner, but for the most part, everybody safely through. As we look down the hill, and as we can see, Rd8 now under pressure here from Witvoet, trying to go up the inside of it into the old hairpin. But through the right-hander, Wayne Douglas is given a bit of breathing room, and up the hill they charge now. And will these two battling side by side as Douglas is being allowed to break away with this. Meanwhile, Mikey Doble tucks in behind there and pushes them both along and says, come on guys, you need to stop fighting, we need to move forward. But will they be able to do so? Because Witvoet and Rd8 are still side by side as they come through McLean's. It's absolutely brilliantly clean racing between them, and Alex Meredith and Tom Davidson are fighting a bit further back there. As we can see, Alex Meredith there on the inside in towards Coppice Bend. But the problem is that Honda's got a lot of tyre grip, and then with it, is able to hold that outside line. But Meredith will get the traction out the corner, and he will be able to move ahead. Rd8, meanwhile, has had to give way to none other than Witvoet as they make the way into the S's, and through the left into the right they go. And Luciano Witvoet finally retakes that second place as they head down towards Melbourne for the first time of asking. But all the field comes on down, and now the big segregation will be line by line as they come down one by one, albeit not if you're Jamie Dory versus Slammer Jarvosky and Alexander Paulik. They go 3 wide on the braking. Paulik there going defence in the middle of the road. He gets a little bit tight between them. Mathew and he's turned sideways. I think he came in just a little bit too hot there, expecting those 3 all to come through the corner a bit quicker than planned. But Mike Barber, meanwhile, where he finds himself on a 3 wide here heading towards Gollards. I don't envy him because right now, oh no, it's gone wrong there as he's turned across the front of Benjamin Gregory's car, and with it, well, that is also going to be an elbow there to Sam Van Olst, who's carried with him. But right now, Mike Barber gets sent all the way down the running order. And well, that is the end of the opening lap here. Mike Barber's had a nightmare end to his opening lap, given the fact he qualified well, and Dylan Hunter will capitalise on that. You can tell on that. But as we come on to lap number 2, well, Thomas Delaney and Benjamin Gregory together here, and Thomas Delaney up into second place in the blue AM class. He's had a lightning quick start to this race. He's making great inroads as Delaney, and well, he'll be hoping for a little bit more now as they go a bit deeper into the distance. But he tucks in behind Benjamin Gregory. He's got Marcel Fritsch Company behind him and William Kurtler. Matthew Jordan, meanwhile, he's leapt into the lead of the Orange Ams, and well, Matthew Jordan does have a habit of some very quick starts, and he's done that again here today because he's moved into leading up into 27th place. Sam Van Olst does have a car that needs to come into the pits for repair work as we understand it, so being caught up there with Mike Barber, well, that's only going from good to bad to worse, as that's a run wide there for our Honda of Duncan Rye as he heads up the hill. Goldwyn Motorsport livery not loading there for some reason, but as he makes his way in behind, well, Matthew Jordan takes another place, and now he's got Duncan Rye pushing him along, albeit for a brief moment. But I wouldn't be surprised here if Mariah's going to try and go around the outside, but Matthew Jordan in the end will get ahead because Mariah does have some damage on the car, and that is curbing all his forward momentum down these straights, and he needs the tow to try and help him out. But further behind, Sean Doby versus Fraser Rostance. Rostance gets ahead there around the outside for NXTGEN Black, so he will take that position, and you can see there Mike Barber, well, he's trying to carry forward as all the drivers here make the way into another lap. But as they do, well, we look back towards the very front of the field, and Wayne Douglas, Luciano Witvoet and Wojciech Rd8 are your top 3 right now as we go on to onto lap number 3, and these drivers continuing to progress this race at a very steady rate. But further in the rear of the picture, Conrad Kula versus Sam Smith. Well, Smith there on the inside. He doesn't really need to fight for this, remember, because he is the leading Orange Pro-Am driver at the moment, and the next nearest driver is Lewis Delmont, 3 places back in 13th place. Lewis Delmont has gained some places overall, but he hasn't gained anything in class because he started second in Orange Pro-Am, so he needs to get a little bit closer to his rival if he wants to be able to make some more points. And well, those points are going to be very important if he wants to pick up prizes at the end of the season, but he'll know that, and his head will be very firmly down and focused on the task at hand. A bit further behind them, you can see Jamie Dory, meanwhile, in at the Elantra. The car that he's really struggling to get to grips with this season. He's admitted time and time again the fact that he loves to drive a car on the nose, but this Elantra he's got to drive on the rear, which is completely out of its comfort zone, which is why he's absolutely enjoyed success in the Honda Civic Type R and the Hyundai Veloster in previous seasons. But this Elantra really has proven to be the bane of his touring car racing experience. As Phil McDougall there up the inside of Kieran Smart. Well, that's a change of places there between two Pro-Am drivers of 2 different classes, and Phil McDougall right now trying to get back to where he started, which was 16th. He's back there now, and Kieran Smart right there with him, albeit the Track Scotland driver I think will be watching and waiting for another opportunity to try and get involved, as Phil McDougall leads a long line of cars here. He is the best part 1.5 seconds off the back of Lee Horn, and therefore Horn right now will be a little bit clearer through. But speaking of Lee Horn, he's looking around the outside of Joe Doble, who's made a bit of a ham sandwich coming on through the S's, and Horn tries to go around the outside, doesn't quite work out there for 14th place, and he will tuck back in instead and wait his turn. But all these drivers making their way onwards, and as they do, oh, what on earth's happened here for Slamir Javotsky? And none other than that is Alexander Paulik, who's gone round, I believe, unless I'm mistaken. These two had a coming together of some description, and neither car can get turned around at the moment as the rest of the field scurries on past them. And William Kurtler here, well, he makes his way into the braking zone for the final bend, as does Fraser Austin and Mark Sykes. Sykes there on the outside line. That's not an easy place to be when you're battling with multiple drivers coming through Gollards, because on that outside of a driver understeers wide, they will take you with them. But Mark Sykes there braving it, knowing he needs to make some progress as he tucks in behind. None other there than Fraser Rostons, but behind him Mathew Cheverton trying to pick his way free. He takes one on Sean Doby. Can he make it 2 here versus Mark Sykes? Well, he looks to go down the hill, and as he does, well, you can see he's on the inside there. Mark Sykes still with him just about, squeezing Cheverton slightly there through Hollywood, but Cheverton now back on the outside to inside here, coming down towards the old hairpin, and Mathew Cheverton will take that place. He gets it stopped just in time as Sykes loses the rear slightly, but he catches the car. That's a lot of rearward brake bias there, and now it's going to be 3 wide here, as we can see. That is going to be Mark Hughes trying to squeeze his way in amongst them all, and he does so. Brilliant racing for Mark Hughes. He takes on Sykes up the inside of Sean Doby. A lovely move from our Audi driver in the 495, and well, he may have started from the pit lane, but right now Mark Hughes definitely not letting it hold him back as he moves up into 5th place in the blue AMs. And can he go hunting after Fraser Austin and William Kurtler? We'll have to wait and see, because they're not too far up the road from him, and I think he'll be feeling a bit of confidence now, and Mark Hughes needs that, because he's definitely not had a happy start to the season in some respects, and the middle half of the season definitely has also proven to be a bit of a frustrating one. But as everyone winds their way through, definitely some calm racing out here, which is absolutely brilliant to see, but fair racing between them all, and we go on to lap number 5, and Wayne Duggars still leads. But with a bit of a breather, we take a look back at some of the major moments in the opening couple of laps, and we start with what happened to Fraser Rostons at the beginning of the race. Now, this was Fraser Rostons making his way in towards turn number 1 into Redgate corner, coming into the corner, went a bit wide there on turn in, and as a result found his way very quickly to the grass. Not enough grip on the tyres there. I think he had the confidence, but the tyre said, we're not warm enough to do it, Fraser, and in the end he discovered what happens when you try and turn a cold tyre through a corner as aggressively as that. We then had this for Lewis Mason at the start of the race. This was coming down in towards the old hairpin. You're looking at the Hyundai Elantra there in red, and the Aztec Racing Claremont machine. Small tap there, the 55 of Michael Lee, sends it spinning around onto the gravel, does a 360 degree pirouette, and very well controlled, and Dylan Hunter there, and a very quickly snap sideways to avoid going into it. In fact, can we get on board with Dylan Hunter's perspective of that? I think we can. Now, you'll see here, Dylan's not going to notice the Waywood Aztec Racing machine, at least not initially. Now, you'll see a little bit of smoke goes up. There it is. And at this point, he's holding his line, and suddenly, Lewis Mason just appears. And, well, Dylan Hunter does a brilliant job there. Snap reacting to the left-hand side, taking it to the grass, and avoiding that becoming a bit of a calamity. Indeed, it could have become that, no doubt about it. We then had this for Joe Gibson, only a little bit later. And this was the number 91 driver, then making his way up towards Dylan Hunter. And I think we were going to catch a bit of it. Oh, goodness me. And Gibson in mid-turn across the front of Lewis Mason's car, and Dylan Hunter going with them there, and well, that went absolutely wrong. And also there, we did have one of our Aztec Racing machines. That was Mathew Cheverton getting caught up. That explains why Cheverton was so far down the order, and a nightmare moment between all of them. And we also had this for Cole Thompson on lap number 2. and the man in the Honda machine, which really resembles the BTCC Super Touring Honda Accord liveries. And oh, that's a nasty knock under braking. And I believe that may have been Mathew Cheverton. Now, was there a bit of bad altercation between them earlier on? Well, if not, that's a mistake under braking there between Mathew Cheverton versus Cole Thompson, and Thompson being turned into the gravel trap as quickly as that. But those are some of the big moments from our opening couple of laps. We haven't really got too much time to go back for plenty more right now, although we are going to get a replay of what happened to Alexander Paulik with regards to his major moment on lap number 3, which saw him parked up on the side of the road coming out of Melbourne. And in fact, we are going to get a quick replay of that, and then we are going to definitely focus on your live racing. Now, this was Alexander Paulik at the time as he made his way through Melbourne hairpin in the cow print machine, and as he did so, the World of Racing driver just coming out the corner, trying to get the power down, and in the prang there with the number 99, and well, that was contact with the car slammer Jarvosky, and the two of them getting caught on each other, and they both came up worse for wear then. I'm sure they'll have a conversation about it after the racing today as to what they could have done better, because you can always learn from those experiences, and well, one driver may be at fault, but there's always ways that both drivers can learn no matter what the cost. But as we are on lap number 6, heading towards lap number 7 very shortly, well, at the front of the field right now, staying relatively static, our top 5. They're not really making haste away from each other, but neither are they falling back into the clutches of the rest of the field behind them, although William Guthrie would be the exception, because Adam Delmont's breathing all down his neck here as they come to the end of another lap and go on to their 7th tour of the circuit under racing conditions, powering their way onwards. And what eyes at Doble a little bit further back there, and then you do have a sizable gap to the Sim Racing Collective's Andrew Pike, whose mum and dad are watching right now, Roger and also their Angie, both cheering on their son. And well, right now Mr. Pike roaring his way on around, and well, I think I'm feeling a little bit lonely, but to be fair, he does have a bit of success bias in the car, and that may just be holding him back. Conrad Cooler, meanwhile, has Alex Meredith right behind him. And this is some of the feistiest we've seen Alex Meredith all season since the midway point. As he goes up, oh, that's a big slide from Alex Meredith. And so, with him there, almost went Conrad Cooler. The two of them going completely sideways. And Sam Smith picks up one place and tries to go for another here. Or as he heads up the hill, he's going to try and look around the outside in towards McLean's. But will he be able to do it here? The leading Orange Pram driver, he's taking a gamble for this. He's going for more overall points. But as he heads up the rising towards Coppice Bend in the Honda Civic Type R, look at the queue of cars behind with the sideways motion of both Cooler and Meredith. Well, there's Lewis Delmont right up the inside of Alex Meredith, and Lewis Delmont right now has got the bit between his teeth. He can see that Sam Smith is not too much further up the road, and what he's thinking to himself right now is, I want that win. But Alex Meredith tries to squeeze up the inside, can't quite do it, and onto the brakes they go. Tom Davidson still side by side with Smith, goes round the outside there. That is brave from Davidson, but to be fair, you've got to be brave and bold to get the job done, and does exactly that. And suddenly Sam Smith and Lewis Delmont to fight each other. Smith's not happy about how this is going, but under braking, Lewis Delmont there all over the back of Davidson. He's not too happy either that Davidson was practically parking it under braking there into the apex. And well, Lewis Delmont's still at the inside of Smith for now, but as they head in towards the final corner of this lap, well, Smith's on the inside here. So right now, what can Lewis Delmont do other than hang it all the way round and hope that understeer does not rear its ugly head? And well, understeer does rear its ugly head, and that's why he goes side wide off of apex, and suddenly Sam Smith is back into the lead of the Orange Pro-Ams. They're heading down towards turn 1. I don't think that's the last lap battle we're going to see unless Alex Meredith and Joe Doble intervene. They're going to make it 3 wide. It's the reverse Moses manoeuvre, and well, Joe Doble gets it down the inside, but Alex Meredith in the end can't get it down the outside. An elbow pops out, and Lewis Delmont says, no, mind your business. And now Lewis Delmont is going to try and go battling here with Joe Doble down through Hollywood, and we're coming down through the right into left. And still Joe Doble on the inside, a small tab, but it turns Lewis Delmont sideways, and both of them come together, and Delmont goes sliding to the gravel, but thankfully he's able to get it under control, and in the end does not make his way to the tyre barrier. There's plenty of runoff space there, and well, for Lewis Delmont, that's going to be absolutely no consideration to the fact he'll be absolutely frustrated with what's happened. But with his loss, others gain, and Michael Lee suddenly finds himself not battling Mathew Addy for 4th place in the Orange Pro-Am, but in fact battling for 3rd in the class. And well, these two, to be fair, we have seen them fight more times than not over the course of the season. For the most part, it's been fair, although there were some times in the earlier seasons where these two definitely did not see eye to eye, and indeed it was a very Plato and Matt Neal-esque between these two. And well, I can definitely tell you one thing, if I had to assign who's Plato and Matt Neal, I would say that Michael Leese is definitely the Jason Plato of these two, and Matt Neal is the Matthew Addy here. And well, Michael Leese does love winding people up, but all fairly, to be fair, Michael, when he listens to this back later on, I hope he gets exactly what I mean. I'm sure you guys and girls at home do. and the fact that Michael Lease being one of the most colourful characters down in the pit lane of our Orange Pro-Ams, but one of the friendliest as well. And he always loves to wind everybody up a little bit, whereas Mathew Addy a little bit more straight-faced, but to be fair, has the fun as well, and that's why we consider him to be the Matt Neal of this pairing. But whether they're Plato or Neal, or Addy and Lease, well, either way, a new lease of life in a rivalry here as they come on to lap number 9, and well, right now they continue to fight as Michael Lease there holds onto that third place, and Alan McCain right in the mix here, as McCain right now looks up the rear and going in towards Redgate corner. He's not going to be able to find opportunity, and Lewis Mason also gets into the queue. But through the right hand they go. We look back from the rear of your JWM 55 machine. And right now looking to be in control of this fight, at least for the brief moment, albeit I say that, knowing that at any moment it could really explode back onto our screens, and that's what we always love to see. But rolling the way all the way round and through the old hairpin, Michael Lease right now keeping them at bay as he makes his way up the rise, and what we can see Mathew Addy, Alan McCain and Lewis Stellman all nice and close together, as in fact Alan McCain's going to try and go around the outside there into McLean's versus Addy. That's going to put him off racing line. Lewis Stellman will watch here and wait his turn, but will he be able to find a way in here heading up towards Coppice Bend? The answer is no, and even Alan McCain decides to back out there knowing that he can't get the leverage under braking in the Honda versus that Audi. But through they go and onwards towards the S's they charge, but as they do, will there be a move here for McCain? It doesn't look as though there will. But from them then, as they head down towards the braking zone, we must come to our blue AM drivers, and this is Mark Hughes who's continuing his crusade up through the field, and Hughes right now up into third place. He's doing a brilliant job. Remember, Mark Hughes started from the pit lane at the very back of the field in the blue AM and overall, and well, right now he's ahead of William Kurtler and ahead of Fraser Rostons. We said he was potentially going to pick his way past the pair of them, and he's done exactly that as Mark Hughes. And well, right now, how much further can he go? Well, Thomas Delaney is 7 seconds up the road, so I think this might be the end of the crusade for Mark Hughes. But to be fair, to be in with a podium finish here in the AM class, given how his day started, I don't think he's going to be too upset about that, as Fraser Rostons, meanwhile, looks to try and go for the move there around the outside of Melbourne, but William Kurtler sees it coming and just holds his line. But from them, we have to come back to the front of the field, because this is a battle for orange overall lead, and we're at the fight for second, and this is Luciano Witvoet trying to keep Wojciech Swierdowicz behind, as we have had Mikey Doble for a couple of places down in recent history. We'll have to try and understand what's happened to Mikey Doble, because he has lost 2 places. He's now behind both what is Swierdowicz and William Guffey and Adam Delmont, in fact. So he's dropped all the way down to 6th place. So something's not quite gone right there for Mikey Doble. I can imagine he's perhaps been in the knee deep of the fighting, and that's what's held him down the order. But meanwhile, looking back towards the very front, we can see Swierdowicz all over the back of Witvoet, and where if he was any closer at this point, I think he'd be looking for the move into the S's. He doesn't go for it this time. He just stays nice and firmly behind as we ride aboard with the number 80 drivers. They bounce their way out of the S's chicane and up towards Melbourne they go. Or should we say down towards Melbourne they go. Again, it's a downhill braking zone, and Swierdowicz here again close, but not quite close enough, as William Guffey, Adam Delmont and Mikey Doble all queue up behind here, all looking for an opportunity to try and make a move for what will be the win in the orange category. We'll see what happens as they get ready to go on to lap number 11, and right now I think Witvoet focusing more and more on a rearguard action rather than trying to chase down Wayne Douglas. So Douglas at this point may just have the lead of this race in his hands, and as long as he doesn't make a mistake, he may just be able to walk away with this very gradually, albeit the pace that all these drivers are showing is absolutely incredible, because they are pushing each other to the absolute limit. Further back in that battle for third place in Orange Pro-Am, Michael Lease still holds at Mathew Addy at bay. The gap is up to 1.1 seconds, and Addy has actually kept Alan McCain and Lewis Delmont behind him, and that explains why Lease has pulled away. But now Addy has left McCain and Lewis Delmont to 6 tenths and is leaving them to fight over the place themselves. So you can see there, Lewis Delmont with a very brazen run in towards the apex, really over the back of Alan McCain as they make the way down through Hollywood and flash his lights there. Well, I think Lewis learning from his dad that the where's the lights button is right next to his hand on the steering wheel, and well, there's no cost to keep flashing those lights, albeit it will annoy the driver in front, and that's the whole aim of it. But right now we ride aboard with Lewis Delmont here as he gets a very good run for the old hairpin. He's going to look up the inside in towards Schwann's curve, and well, they're going to rub paint as they head in towards McLeod's. Alan McCain there just holds his line and forces them to go at his pace through the right-hander, but Delmont's not done yet, and he, much like his dad here, all over the back of his roll like a bad rash, and well, Alan McCain has to go deep there as a result. A bit of pressure through Coppice Bend, but Lewis Delmont in the end can't carry all the momentum through. So it's going to be a drag race now down the back stretch in towards the S's they go on lap number 11 in the fight for 5th place in Pro-Am. And Lewis Stillman right now knowing every point matters if he wants to try and chase that championship crown. But in the end, Alan McCain keeps him at bay there. Takes a very compromised line. Lewis Stillman gets the better run out the corner. But can he now look for the move coming down towards Melbourne? Well, he's going to look for it. Swings back to the inside. Alan McCain meanwhile points the car to the apex and says, okay, give it a try, I dare you. But he outbrakes himself. Lewis Stillman's going to get back up the inside then. This could be an opportunity for the youngster. But as they head up the rise, Alan McCain again showing his veterancy on the grid and defends on the inside. The Irish Esports driver is not giving up here as they make the way down for a left-hander. But Delwant goes to the cutback. Contact between the two of them. Alan McCain tried to cover it. Lewis Delwant tried to go for the cutback and both of them on an intersecting path. And it brings that battle to an end. But I don't think that's the way either of them wanted it to go. As suddenly your orange AM leader, Mathew Cheverton, separates the two and continues to move his way up the order. But with all these changes afoot, well, what else is happening elsewhere, I hear you ask? And well, Marcel Fritsch right now, who's fallen all the way to 3rd place in Orange Am. Indeed, he's had a bit of a nightmare start to the day here in terms of the racing, and he was involved in an incident only moments ago, and one earlier, in fact, that sent him down the order, and this was the incident on lap number 6 that really explains why Marcel Fritsch fell from 2nd in Orange Am further down. And well, there's a bit of contact there between himself and the 32 Ree swap with Thomas Delaney also getting involved in a pinch between all 3 cars when Marcel Fritsch, being the one who caught out and sensed the grass. Very unfortunate for him, but still he was able to get back into the race, but that's what sent him behind Mark Sykes. Coming back to your live racing then, well, as we see Marcel Fritsch being chased by Sean Doble in the meantime. Well, from all the drivers then, we look back up towards the very front, and Mikey Doble right now in 6th with Isaac Doble behind. Isaac has found his way ahead of Andrew Pike in recent history, and that's why you've seen the 2 Double Sim racing cars together here, although Isaac Doble, I think, covering the outside area. I think this is more to protect his brother and make sure that Andrew Pike can't look for a move on the pair of them. They're essentially running as a rolling roadblock, but as they make their way on towards the final lap, well, Andrew Pike, I think, has got other ideas as we ride on board with the Sim Racing Collective Honda, the number 57. And well, he's not close enough at this point in the lap, but he doesn't need to be close enough right now. As we can see, in fact, Isaac Doble going at the inside of Mikey Doble. Mikey having a bit of a twitch there under braking. So number 1 driver here, I think, struggling with the success bars, the maximum success bars to 56 kilograms in that car. And well, Isaac being let through on the inside there to try and move the team forward and with it make sure that both drivers get good points. And now Mikey will definitely be trying to put up a defensive wall here versus Andrew Pike. And well, Pike, to be fair, one of the most consistent drivers out there and one of the fairest. He may not be the fastest, but he knows exactly how to use this Honda to overtake and defend as he tries to take a sneak peek up the inside into Schwanz, but this is all the mind games here as he knows he's got the better corner exit speed if he nails his exits versus that Veloster, but no way through at the moment. Mikey Doble sees what he's trying to do, sees he's trying to get the cutback momentum and says, no, you do not. But to the front of the field, here's Wayne Douglas, and then 1.2 seconds behind is the long train of cars from Witvoet all the way back to Adam Delmont as they all fight over 2nd place overall and the lead of the orange overall classification. And Witvoet, Rd8, Guthrie and Delmont, they're all together, but they're not really close enough to think about a move here. It's going to be a long way away from ascend for Rd8, but to be fair, he's not going to go for any callous move like that. And up the hill they go, but behind them, Mikey Doble still keeping Andrew Pike behind, and then Tom Davidson has got the pressure of Sam Smith, your orange prime leader, all over the back of him as all these drivers squabble together. But meanwhile, coming out to the final quarter, much like at Knockhill, he took pole there and led the way away in race number 1. And for Wayne Douglas, is a victory of the first race of the day here at Donington Park's Grand Prix circuit at Luciano Witvoet and Wojciech Rd8. William Guthrie and Adam Delmont complete your top 5 ahead of Isaac Doble, with Mikey Doble keeping Andrew Pike at bay for 7th. Tom Davidson took 9th ahead of your orange prime winner Sam Smith, who came home in 10th. Conrad Kula, Joe Doble, Lee Horn, Jamie Dorian, Alex Meredith completed your top 15 for the overall points ahead of Phil McDougall there, who took the blue prime win. Well done to Phil, an absolutely solid effort, with Kieran Smart and Piotr Jegosleski just behind. In 23rd place, your orange AM winner Mathew Jordan adds another win to his stock. And speaking of stock, there is Nigel Stock, your winner in blue AM, and indeed just leading the way of a very comfortable drive for Crest Autosport, with 2nd place in their class going to Thomas Delaney ahead of Mark Hughes, with an absolutely huge effort there to make his way all the way to 3rd in the blue AM class on the pit lane. What a job in the 495. But looking a bit further back, Dylan Hunter comes on around and he will take 2nd place in the blue prime class, 39th from the running order. I don't think he can quite believe his luck, but For his fortune, Mike Barber, with a bit of fortune of his own, takes third in the blue Pram class, and therefore the damage done to his championship lead is not as significant as it could have been, with Carl Thompson somehow recovering to fourth place in the blue Pram class after his huge shunt with Mathew Cheverton. He'll be absolutely chuffed with that. But as all our drivers coming through, I must also give a special mention as Andy Chell's the last of our finishers in the lead lap. A special mention to Mark Sykes, who was the run-up in the orange AM class with a 32nd place overall, and also Marcel Fritsch just behind him there, 34th overall, but third in the orange AM class. But as things settle down, ladies and gentlemen, also we should say I mentioned to second place orange AM driver Kieran Smart, who made his way through the Pram field and finished on a high. And we should say the orange Pram driver there, not orange AM driver. And also third place in the orange Pram class, Michael Lees, the JWM Motorsport driver, with cheeky battle with Matthew Addy coming out favourably for him. And well, he'll be looking forward to plenty more with a bit of extra weight in the car when he does go to the grid for race number 2. But as all our drivers make their way into the pit lane, so fantastic to see all of them doing the cool down lap and making their way on in. Well, let's take a look to the scenic view, ladies and gentlemen, and with it, your race results. So after an absolutely superb race number 1 of the day here at the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit for round number 8 of season 9 of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles, Wayne Douglas, your overall winner for pole position for Next Gen Black, overall and also blue overall winner, the pro driver there, absolutely unstoppable. However, with second place success ballast in the car, Luciano Witvoet did a stellar job for Welder Racing at STR Motorsports to hold on to the orange overall win, and was second on the overall running order in the Audi RS3. He had Wojciech Rd8 breathing down his neck time and time again in the closing stage of the race, but the Semper Racing driver there could not find an inroad. However, William Guthrie could find a way up the order. He finished 4th. Well done to him for Full Tilt in Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport. Held off the charges of Adam Delmont in particular from Next Gen Green behind, and there was a further 3.5 seconds to Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing, who in the end swapped the places with teammate Mikey Doble, and Mikey Doble was left for the task of keeping Andrew Pike behind, which he executed successfully. The Sim Racing Collective Esports drive finished 6 seconds ahead of teammate Tom Davidson, with your top 10 being completed by Sam Smith there, your orange Pro-Am class winner for iRacing Esports. He dominated in qualifying and he led the way away in the race, and well done to Sam, who enjoyed a brilliant bit of battling with the pros around him as well. Conrad Kula was best of the rest in length for Semper Racing, ahead of Doble Sim Racing's Joe Doble, with Lee Horn there for Next Gen Pink, a second clear of Jamie Dury at the close, with Jamie Dury and Lee Horn both seemingly struggling in this first race of the day. Alex Meredith, he fought hard for WSS Racing, but for all his forward action, he also fell backwards to a degree and took 15th in the end, but he was ahead of Phil McDougall, who in the end took 16th overall, but more relevantly for him, the Pro-Am Blue Class win for CXR Project Black. Well done to him. Behind the Honda Civic driver, it was second place in the orange Pram class for Kieran Smart for Track Scotland with a brilliant effort, and then Piotr Jagoslewski, the run-up of the Blue Pros, he took 18th, head of Michael Lees for JWM Motorsport, who completed your orange Pram podium. Matthew Addy took 20th place, and then behind them, continuing our rundown of the order, we did see in 21st place Lewis Delmont, who was going so well early on, only for things to be turned around in the wrong direction, and the Next Gen Green driver having to pick things back up from the old hairpin onwards. We expect him to come ferociously through the field once again in race number 2. Alan McCain was right behind him for iRacing Esports, but ahead of your orange AM winner, Matthew Jordan, with the Next Gen Pink driver there making his way through the field absolutely lightning quick, with a monster start seeing gain 6 places, where in the end he never looked back and absolutely led the class away. Benjamin Craigie and Duncan Rye completed your top 25, with Nigel Stock being your blue AM class winner for Crest Autosport. Well done to Nigel in an absolutely solid performance, and he was ahead of Reese Watt and Ben Benneyworth. Behind the QMS Motorsport driver was Thomas Delaney, your run-up in the blue AMs for Next Gen Black, and behind him GBRC's Mark Hughes, who started from the pits and made his way to third in the blue AM class. What an effort from him, one of the drivers of the season, no doubt about it. William Kirtland just missed out on the top 30 spot, a further second behind, but he was ahead of Mark Sykes, your run-up in orange AM, with the WSS Racing driver seeing Fraser Austin and then Marcel Fritsch behind him, of which Marcel Fritsch in that contact making his way up towards the Goddard's hairpin, while the Verano Esports driver there having a frustrating mid-portion of his race and having to settle for third in the orange AM class. We did see then Sam Van Olst, Lewis Mason, Mathew Cheverton, Dylan Hunter and Mike Barber complete your top 40, and significantly the Adapt Sim Racing driver there taking the runner-up spot in the Blue Pram classification ahead of his main championship rival, and they rounded off your podium. But with their fortunes seemingly coming on through, in 41st was Kyle Thompson for GBRC, a second clear of Alexander Paulik, with the last lead lap finisher being Andy Chell. And then finished a lap down the pair of them, Semper Racing Slamir Jarvosky and Joe Gibson for Goldwyn Motorsports. And our sole retiree from this race, Ben Altrier for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, who only made it the best part of 5 laps before the car had to be brought into the pitch due to the damage picked up. So 46 starters, 45 finishers, ladies and gentlemen, and well, with it, we saw 43 on the lead lap, and that is just race number 1 of the day, because we've got 2 more races to come here at the Donington Park racing circuit, and if race number 1 is any indication to go by, the racing was smart, it was clever, but it was absolutely brilliant, and we can expect plenty more in race number 2, which is coming up in approximately 15 minutes time. But don't go anywhere, we'll be back soon, and well, as we do leave you for a brief moment, we do leave you with a word from our title sponsor for this season, Doble Motorcycles. We will see you again very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for race number 2 of round 8 of season 9 of the NXTCC, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles. Race number 1, without a doubt, delivered. It was fast, it was furious, but it was also finely poised, and we saw some absolutely superb battling action up, down, and through the grid from lights out to checker flag. But coming into this one, well, what more can we expect? The clouds have come over a little bit. There's perhaps a sign, a drip or drop of rain on the horizon. Perhaps not arriving in race number 2, but more likely so in race number 3 if the clouds continue to intensify at the rate they are. But track temperature will definitely come on down, and with it, with the threat of a little bit of rain, that can always serve to spice things up a little bit more later on in the day. Whether our drivers are looking for rain or whether they're looking for stable conditions, one thing that is certain is that Wayne Douglas will be hoping to try and achieve some stability right at the front of the field after a brilliant performance from pole position in race number 1 to take that overall win. No success ballast in the car, but to be fair, he was under major pressure in the early stages from the likes of Luciano Witvoet and also Wojciech Rd8, but the two end up squabbling more in the end, and that's what enabled Wayne Douglas just to gradually pull away. But there were some great performances up and down the field, and let's see if we can perhaps get a word or two from our drivers who have made up this running order so far in the first race today and get to hear their perspectives on some absolutely fun racing. But who exactly can we get a word from? Well, I think we might be able to get a word with a driver who we're talking about a little bit earlier on. It's not quite the man you see on the screen, Rd8, but we are going to be hearing from the man who is with him in the team, and we're going to be hearing it from Michael Lees. If you give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, and well, we will get a word from the driver who definitely enjoys doing plenty of battling. And well, let's get a word from Michael Lees as we get a patch through to it in the pit lane. Michael, have you got time for a quick chat? He may not, ladies and gentlemen, or he may be away at the moment. So as a result, we may have to leave Michael Lees for a brief moment, but we'll try and catch him a little bit later. But definitely doesn't seem to be working out there. But what we will try and do instead is we'll try and grab a word with his teammate who's making his way around. And well, can we get a word with Rd8, who we haven't spoken to in a while, in fact. And well, let's bring him on into our broadcasting room. Let's get the patch through to the car from Rd8 then. Rd8, you got time for a quick chat?
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you, Rd8. But how about yourself? How's race number 1 for you?
Tough. I'm struggling to find any pace out here at the minute. But did the best I could. Gained a few places. Hopefully puts me in a better position for race 2.
Awesome.
Starting from the pits didn't help.
Well, a start from the pits, of course, never helps. Starting from the very back of the field, but you gradually carved your way through. But what do you think you're struggling with the Audi around here?
It's the consistent braking. Some laps I've got it, some laps I haven't. It's just stringing it all together that has been the issue. But by race 3, by the end of the night, hopefully we'll have done neither.
Well, it's a good target to have. With that, Rd8, we'll leave you to it. Good luck in race 2, and we'll see you at the checker flag.
Cheers, pal.
So hearing there quickly from Rd8, and well, talking about his struggles with regards to consistency over a lap, but also the fact starting from the pit lane didn't quite help, but still he's got plenty more to go then in this next run of the racing. And well, I believe we might get a very quick word from Adam Delman if we can. Let's see if we can get a quick 30-second word from the man. And well, as we do, let's get a patch through. Adam, you got time for a quick 30-second chat? And well, he may not, ladies and gents. I think he might be getting his head down at the moment. So as a result, we will leave Adam to it. Does seem as though a lot of our drivers getting their heads down. And oh, goodness me, I think we were about to get a word from him, but I think we will leave him now to it, given the fact that we haven't got too long left. And well, if unfortunately his microphone wasn't working, we will try and catch him after our second race of the day. So do apologise to Adam there. It seems like it hasn't quite worked out as grabbing a word for a driver. I think they're all getting their heads down and focusing. But to be fair, you can understand their focus first and foremost is on trying to deliver the best possible result they can. And we're just in time too, ladies and gentlemen, because it is time to head to the grid for race number 2 here at the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they line up for the second race of today. It is Wayne Douglas who makes it back-to-back pole positions for Next Gen Black, and he is in the company on the front row of the grid of Luciano Witvoet for World of Racing at STR Motorsports. The Dutchman will have pressure both in front, but also from behind, as Wojciech Rd8 has a bit of the same weight as before in the car, but he also has the bit between his teeth for Semper Racing as he looks to go on the hunt. If he can't move forward, William Guthrie will be there to pounce for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, and then on row number 3, which your regular of Adam Delmont there for Next Gen Green. I had a few words when we tried to get a word from him. I think the only word he wants in is victory here today. If not, Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing will start on 6th for the grid, and he will be hoping to move forward with teammate Mikey Doble right behind. The number 1 car then now shedding its lead success ballast, and now down to the best part of 15 kilograms of weight, and Mikey Doble will be happy with that because now he can move forward from there. Andrew Pike begins this one in 8th place for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and knowing that more points are to come if he moves forward, but if he doesn't move forward, he's got teammate Tom Davidson right behind him for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, who'll be very happy to try and work with him. Sam Smith begins this one in 10th place there, and well with it, just behind the Sim Racing Collective Esports drivers, but takes orange pram pole position. He'll be very happy with that and be looking now to carry all the weight forward with 32.5 kilograms of success ballast. What can he do there from 10th on the grid? Well, if he can't move forward, he's got a lot of time between himself and the next orange pram driver, because the next row of the grid is made up of orange pros, Conrad Kula for Semper Racing and Double Sim Racing, Joe Doble being those two. Then we have Next Gen Pink's Lee Horn and Jamie Dory, the two teammates there together on row number 7, ahead of Alex Meredith for WSS Racing, with a lot of misfortune striking him in race number 1 in terms of all the places he gained. He lost in equal measure, and Phil McDougall joins him on that row. In 16th, your blue pram pole sitter, the CXR Project Black driver, trying to make it 2 from 2. Kieran Smart starts 17th for Track Scotland, ahead of Piotr Zalewski for Semper Racing, and Smart will be looking to be clever with his racing here as he tries to make a bit more progress in this one, with then Michael Leash just behind for JW Motorsport, ahead of Matthew Addy for WSS Racing, and these two rivals will be looking to go toe-to-toe once again in the second race of the day. But don't count out behind them Lewis Delmont for Next Gen Green, nor Alan McCain for iRacing Esports, for Lewis Delmont, who definitely now has an axe to grind here in the fact that all that progress at the start of race number 1 was for naught, and now he's got to do it all again and chase down the Pro-Am win. Matthew Jordan begins his 23rd for your Orange Am class, and that's where he starts on pole of the class for Next Gen Pink, ahead of Benjamin Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport. Duncan Murray and Nigel Stock make up your 13th row for Goldwyn Motorsports and Crest Autosport respectively, with the blue and pole sitter there looking to try and make it 2 from 2, and definitely seems to have the pace to be able to make it a reality. Reece Watt begins at 27th, and as he mentioned there, having started from the pit lane in race 1, he's already made his way halfway up the order. Can he now add plenty more places in race number 2? If not, Ben Benneyworth starts 28th for Quatermass Motorsport, and Thomas Delaney's just behind there for Next Gen Black. Mark Hughes, the man who was lightning quick from the pit lane in race number 1, he'll be starting there in 30th now for GBRC, and then we have behind them on the next row of the grid, it is going to be William Kurtler for Aztec Racing, and ahead of him, well behind him I should say, is Mark Sykes for WSS Racing. We have on row number 17 Fraser Rostance for Next Gen Black, and Verano Esports' Marcel Fritsch, with Sean Doby beginning this one in 35th place for ATEC Tech Racing, and well, it is going to be then Goldwyn Motorsports Sam Van Olst in the company alongside him there, starting at 36th. Lewis Mason will begin this one in 37th for Aztec Racing, ahead of Mathew Cheverton for Aztec Racing, with Dylan Hunter for Adapt Sim Racing and Quatermass Motorsports Mike Barber completing your top 40. But keep in mind, those are your two blue Pro-Am Championship rivals there together, so there could be some fireworks between them. But don't rule out Carl Thompson, who's right behind him and looking to get right into the mix. And the GBRC driver then in company of Alexander Paulik for World of Racing at STR Motorsports. We have starting in 43rd Andy Chell for Quatermass Motorsport, ahead of Slamir Jalvoski for Semper Racing, with Joe Gibson starting 45th for Goldwyn Motorsports. And last but not least, 46th on the starting grid, Ben Altrier, who retired in race number 1, the sole retiree, while the Full Tilt Motorsport Boosted Motorsport driver's got it to it all from the back of the field. Can he make a miracle happen? Well, miracles do happen every so often, ladies and gentlemen. Wayne Douglas will feel as though he'll need a miracle to keep the rest of the field behind him, but you never know what can happen here at Donington Park and in the NXTCC. And for the second time today, it's about time the lights went on. So it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 red lights. And 13 laps of racing gets underway just like that for race number 2 of the day here. And as they roar the way away, well, Wayne Douglas there gets a good start, but Luciano Witvoet does not waste an opportunity. This time he has a much better start. Looking around the outside here into Rd8 corner. Wojciech Rd8 on the inside. These drives all together there as we look to the long distant blimp view. And as they roar the way down in towards Hollywood, it's side by side there, but Wayne Douglas on the inside is always going to hold that place as they all come charging on through. Mark Sykes been in difficulty further down the order, but they snake train the way now into the old hairpin, and as they do, all the field come to be together there, and well, a bit of a run wide onto the grass. That is Michael Lees, who back gambles his chips and rejoins, but he takes a bit more grass on the exit of the old hairpin, but keeps it together thereabouts. So we've had a bit of an incident further down the order that seems to have caught a few drivers out. However, we'll get a replay of that when we can, as meanwhile we come back to the front of the field and look at Adam Delmont looking around the outside there. That is very brave from Adam Delmont. He's looking very quick here, and we're coming in towards the right hand of turn number 8 through Coppice Bend. We start beside Mikey Doble, but Mikey Doble as well is feeling confident now with all the weight out the car. Suddenly your championship leader is absolutely coming alive here as they all come down towards the S's. Oh no! That's all gone wrong in the rear of the picture. There's a scattering of cars there, and well, the Sim Racing Collector car survives it all, but meanwhile 2 cars to the barrier. Couldn't quite see who that was, but most of the drivers at the front still survive it all and heading up towards Melbourne. Well, right now Mikey Doble battling side by side with Wojciech Rd8. 2 while they come down, and well, these 2 very established rivals, but it's a 3-wide scramble behind them as up the inside is Andrew Pike. He gains 2 places for the price of 1 move, and Adam Delmont and William Guthrie. I don't think they're going to know that Andrew Pike's there until they see him right in front of them. Andrew Pike, they've been the opportunist and then some. That was a lovely move from Andrew Pike. Literally daylight robbery, and nobody saw it coming. Indeed, that is the steal of the century. But to the end of 1 lap they go, and on to lap number 2. It's Wayne Douglas who still leads ahead of Luciano Witvoet with Wojciech Rd8 in 3rd. Mikey Doble 4th ahead of Andrew Pike 5th. Then in 6th is Adam Delmont. Isaac Doble is 7th. Joe Doble's 8th. He's made his way up into 8th. William Guthrie now up his inside, puts him back to 9th for a brief moment. Sam Smith, your orange pram leader, is in 10th, but takes a lot of grass as he exits the corner. Alex Meredith and Tom Davidson are fighting over best of the rest behind as Jamie Dory there goes up the inside of Davidson and forces Davidson back down to 13th place. Phil McDougall, he's gained 2 overall since the start of the race, and right now the blue pram leader is carrying on from where he left off in race number 1. Further back, Mark Hughes is your blue am leader here. Mark Hughes is having an absolutely brilliant run in this race so far. He's just ahead of Nigel Stock, and well, let's keep our eyes affixed to this because Nigel Stock is right there with him as they make the way in towards the right hander there of McLean's. And right now Mark Hughes definitely has had the best start of everybody when it comes to classes and making gains, although Thomas Delaney is not too far behind. You can see him in the rear of the picture in the SVR Motorsport machine as they roar the way onto the back stretch. But Delaney's got the company of Alan McCain that he's trying to keep at bay, and he'll want to keep McCain out the way to keep a good eye on Stock and Hughes. They continue to fight, but down towards the S's they come, and Hughes right now not showing any signs of being under too much pressure here from Stock, and we'll keep in mind the difference of success balance from the cars where Stock has 32 kilograms in the car, meanwhile Mark Hughes by comparison only has the best part of 10, and well, that'll be the difference between the 2 of them in terms of the weights they're carrying. Further back, that's a bit of a calamity. Oh no, that is Dylan Hunter. What's happened to Dylan Hunter? Well, he drops down to 5th in Blue Pro-Am, but it's going to be compounded here because of course he's at the very back of the class. Mike Barber's up into 2nd in the class, and Dylan Hunter, much like race number 1, has had a dramatic race number 2, but they all try to get it back together for now in all the chaos and carnage. We'll come back to the bottom end of the top 15, and this is Kieran Smart we're focusing on. He's got Lewis Delmont right behind. These 2 fighting over 2nd place in the orange AM class as Wayne Douglas meanwhile has picked up a yellow flag. I believe that might be for track limit, and was all the drivers roar the way around right now. I think Wayne Douglas will know that he's got a lot of pressure burning behind him, as in fact I think he's having to burn a slowdown penalty, and with regards to that he's going to drop all the way down to 4th place off camera. But Smart has got Lewis Delmont right behind him for close company here, as we can see. There comes Delmont in the Honda, gets the better X out the corner, but so running all over the back of Smart here, looks one way then the other, still there as they head up in towards McLean's, but can't find his way through and has to wait as Kieran Smart takes a very tight entry line, and well, that's Lewis Delmont just trying to get into Smart's head but can't quite pull it off at the moment as Mathew Addy and Michael Lee stay carrying exactly as they were from race number 1. These 2 side by side again coming around the circuit towards the end of lap number 3. They tear, and as they do, Addy ahead of Lee for the time being. But both of these 2 right now, nothing between them with Reese Watt. They're trying to help out his teammate, and Reese at this point, well, I think he'll be fancying his chances as he is continuing to move up the order. And remember, we can be reversing the grid from anywhere between 13th and 23rd after this race for our final race of the day. So all these drivers right now will be very eager to move up the order because they will all want to be in that reverse grid or give themselves the highest possible chance to be. Behind, that's Mark Hughes versus Nigel Stock. Stock dives the inside for Blue Am lead, but Mark Hughes there takes the more traditional outside line. But the one thing this Audi has to take that line is better traction and also with it performance in the lower gear range, and that's why Mark Hughes is able to blaze his way away. And Nigel Stott, meanwhile, in a Honda that's already down on acceleration. Also, he's got success bars much greater than Hughes is in the car, and Sonny, that is cost him time. But meanwhile, coming from them, we come back to the battle between Mikey Doble and Wojciech Rd8. These two side by side as they roar the way out of Redgate corner. Nothing between them right now, and in towards the left into right here. Here comes Rd8 at the inside. Doble gives it the space to operate. A bit of tap between the two, and Rd8 is able to make the corner in the end, but not about Mikey Doble being right behind him again. Further behind, Andrew Pike now making more place up ahead of Joe Doble and Isaac Doble now as the Doble Sim Racing family all try to get past the Sim Racing Collective Honda that's proven to be absolutely obstinate, but Joe Doble says, I will find a way through whether you like it or not. But now will the places pour out the proverbial champagne bottle? Well, right now Andrew Pike trying to stick the court back in as much as he can. Over the crest they go, and as they do, it's a long line of cars all together here. Brilliant racing between them, and right, it's going to be no delta, as we do need to get a replay of some of the incidents that happened earlier on in this race when we can. But everybody right now, we're already close to getting inside this top 10, and we don't look away for a brief moment. Adam Delmont fighting here with Isaac Doble up the inside. 2 wide they go in towards the S's, 2 wide they exit, and Wayne Douglas is going to have the better run of the trio, and now making it 3 wide as they come down towards the braking zone here. Up the inside goes Wayne Douglas. Isaac Doble in the middle backs out there, and Adam Delmont tries to go all the way around the outside. What's going to happen here is that Adam Delmont's going to have the best line going up in towards the Gollard's hairpin, and Adam Delmont will hold on to the place he's taken off of Isaac Doble and make sure that Wayne Douglas can't find a way back ahead. So it's going to be a nice move there from Adam Delmont, really playing his chess pieces absolutely right as they go on to lap number 5. And as they do, well, the laps are very quickly trickling away as Alex Meredith now is all on alongside all alongside Isaac Doble and coming in towards turn number 1, looking around the outside here. Well, can Alex Meredith make the move count? Not quite, but he bounces over the apex curve there, puts the car up into 2 wheels for a brief moment, and very close as he now makes his way down the hill. Now, the WSS Racing driver here will need to pick his attack, because if he gets it wrong and gets caught out, he'll suddenly lose all the momentum with William Guthrie and Tom Davidson itching behind. But as he chucks the car into the old hairpin, while Isaac Doble there in the slipstream of Wayne Douglas gives plenty of speed, and Alex Meredith as well gives it plenty of beans up the hill, so no change between them. They neutralise each other's efforts as they head in towards McLean's. Well, from them further behind, well, in terms of battles, we have Lewis Delmont looking to try and find his way past Kieran Smart for second place in the Orange Pro-Am class. Can't find a way through, but with all of that, we need to take a look back at some incidents earlier on in the race, and we start off with what happened to none other than Sam Van Olst right at the beginning of our racing. Now, this was Sam Van Olst making his way down towards turn number 1. As he did so into Redgate corner, what went wrong here? He came in blazingly quick, tried to go the way out the inside, and Mark Sykes, unsighted there, came into contact with Van Olst. I think innocent between the two of them. Just converging lines there didn't quite work out, and well, Sam Van Olst came off the worst of the two. We then had this, meanwhile, for none other than Alan McCain on the opening lap, and I believe this was a brief trip to the Wii to the Irish esports driver, as that was Michael Lease going very sideways for a brief moment, and McCain getting a small nudge there from Narvan Lewis Delmont, and then a further nudge from the 113 of Benjamin Gregory, and that's an Alan McCain out wide for the old hairpin. We had this for Carl Thompson on the opening lap. This was a big moment for Carl Thompson as he briefly dematerialised. I think we lost Carl Thompson, only for him to then reappear on our screens, but I don't think we're going to quite get a feed of what happened to Carl Thompson, so we are going to leave that behind. But then this had to happen to Tom Davidson, and this was the big incident down the back straight on lap number 1 between himself and none other there than the Semper Racing machine, and that was Piotr Jigoslewski, I believe he came into contact with, and we'll talk, well, no, that was Conrad Kula, my apologies, and Conrad Kula coming off the worst of the pair of them. Well, can we see what happened from Kula's perspective? Made his way along, and as he did so, getting the power down, he's going to come across slightly, and that sends him one way then the other, and the car just goes sliding, gets collected there by Lee Horn, and suddenly Lee Horn comes charging across your picture, and well, nightmare moment between all 3 drivers. But coming from mad moments of madness to great performances, well, we come to the battle between Mark Hughes and Nigel Stock in the early stage of the race, and how on earth did Mark Hughes take the lead of the Blue Am class right at the start? Well, here it was. This was on lap number 1, and heading up to the end of the lap, Nigel Stott was defending the middle road, and Mark Hughes in the end looked up the inside, went all in for it, did the Miltech Civic Cup driver, and absolutely nailed it there, and also was aided a little bit by the JWM Motorsport of Reese Watt making his way through, as that was an ejection of one of our Quatermass Motorsport machines, and I believe that may have been none other than Ben Benneyworth getting sent sideways there as we come back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we do in the nick of time because we may have spent a lap and a half behind replay cameras, but right now we've got more to come as Alex Meredith still battling here with Isaac Doble, getting his elbows firmly out, and in all of this, in the fact we've got a change of prime leader in the orange class. Lewis Delmont has found his way ahead of Kieran Smart and Sam Smith. Smith has dropped a long way down through that order. He was running quite comfortably in the lead of the orange prime class, but how has that happened, we're not quite sure. But you can see the aftermath here as meanwhile 3 wide they come in towards turn number 1, and your blue prime leader, Phil McDougall's right in the middle of it all. Well, Phil here's got to play his cards right because he can't afford to really lose this lead. He's got a lot of places between himself and the next car of Mike Barber that's all the way down 24th place. But right now for Phil McDougall, he could really take the opportunity to being on home at 3 wins in the class. We'll have to wait and see what he could do, as meanwhile Matthew Addy up the inside of him there to the old hairpin. Peter Jevzleski now queues up behind him. These guys getting very firm with each other as they roar the way onwards, and the clouds continue to thicken here over Leicestershire County, and we'll head up towards, oh my goodness, that will look up the inside there of Michael Lees. Contact with Peter Jevzleski, and it sends Phil McDougall out wide, and oh, it's all gone wrong. Michael Lees there getting caught up, and with it, no, surely not. That's not Mark Hughes that's been caught up in it. Yes, it is. And Mark Hughes Sonny, who was leading Blue Am, it's all gone backwards, and that is going to be a trip to the pit lane for Mark Hughes, and that is going to be a car that's going to need significant repair work, and I wouldn't be surprised right now if that car is struggling its way along. But that is going to be absolutely gut-wrenching for the GBRC driver who was running so well as your AM leader, and suddenly, well, it's all gone horrifically wrong. It's gone from good to bad to nightmare as quickly as you can say those words. But whilst that's happened, we take a look back at what happened between Sam Smith and Lewis Delmont on lap number 6. And this was their fight, and well, this was 4 wide, my good lord, into Melbourne. 4 wide there, with then Jamie Dory leading them all into the apex, and that was Lewis Delmont trying to go around the outside of both Smart and Sam Smith, so he was brave around the outside, and I have never in my life seen 4 wide at Melbourne Hairpin, and Lewis Delmont has pulled it off. That is a first in my history of commentary, ladies and gentlemen. That is incredible from Lewis Delmont, and where it relied upon all the cars around him from being smart, but when everyone races smart, you can get absolute miracle moves like that. But back to your live racing, and we do see Mark Hughes makes his way into the pit lane, and well, that will be an Audi that's going to need a lot of repair work. We do have a disqualification for Samir Javoski that's coming in. I believe that may be due to damage that's been picked up by the Semper Racing driver, and the fact it has not been repaired within 3 laps of being awarded with regards to the meatball flag. So therefore, Javoski's race has come to a close. We'll get confirmation of that after the race has concluded, ladies and gentlemen. But with all this happening, well, let's not forget we do have a very close battle for the lead of this race, and it's Luciano Witvoet and Wojciech Rd8 right together with Mikey Doble 1.6 seconds behind. There's been so much going on that right now, everywhere you look, it's absolute chaos, but it's brilliant chaos at that, and our 2 leaders here continue to push each other onwards. From then, we also have a battle for the blue prime lead, and Phil McDougall, who was caught up in that big moment coming out of McLean's, or the point being that he has right behind him right now the championship leader of blue prime, and that is Mike Barber all over the back of him, looking left, looking right. The Quake MS Motorsport driver there trying to go around the outside now as they come down in towards the Melbourne hairpin, but going that deep, well, Nigel Stott's going to be right there with him as they make the way up the hill and in towards God as they go, and Barber's had the better run up the hill. I think he's going to go all in here under brake. He's got less weight in the car as well. Oh, Phil McDougall tries to close the door, but Barber there is already on the inside, and that is going to be a change of the blue prime lead. Mike Barber takes the place and now tries to go a little bit further up the road as he heads in towards lap number 9, and 3rd place in the blue prime class is none other than Joe Gibson, who's had a much better race compared to race number 1, I can tell you that, and right now he's having a very happy day in the office with William Curtin, the blue 2nd place AM driver, right there with him. But whilst all this is going on, let's not forget we've got an overall lead battle going on, as that is Wojciech Rd8 trying to go around the outside, Luciano Witvoet into and out of McLean's. He's going to carry on through copies here, and right now Rd8 actually using all the road in the battle of the 2 Audis. As we ride on board here with the Semper Racing 80 as it powers its way down the back stretch. Looks the inside here, and well, the number 60 car does not go defensive, leaves the door open, does Whitford, but I can understand if he's probably thinking more about the fact that right now, well, he needs the better run coming down towards Melbourne, and this is where Rd8 may look for the move. Wipers are on here, clearing all the gravel and bits off of the windscreen. He's going to look all the way around the outside here. Can he get the move done? No, he can't. Goes to the cutback instead. Whitford just parks the car there, but he doesn't quite park it right. and Rd8 has been given an opportunity to try and look around the outside here, scrambling all the way round under braking. It's going to be very door-to-door between the two of them, and as they exit the corner, Witvoet in the end just gives him enough space to breathe, and for Rd8 to make the conscious decision to back out as our top three right now make the way onto another lap. Onto lap 10 they go. Mikey Doble's right there with them. Further behind, Joe Doble, meanwhile, he holds on to full place ahead of Adam Delmont and Andrew Pike, but Pike's on the inside of Delmont here, in towards turn 1. He's going to go for it in the battle of the two Honda Civic Type R's, the battle for the leading Honda position, and will Andrew Pike up the inside there. That is a smooth move into Redgate. I think Adam Delmont's not going to fight it too hard because they don't want to let Joe Doble just walk off into the distance with it. But down the hill they come, and they roar the way towards the old hairpin, and well, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen next. As meanwhile, on their way on that journey as well, Wayne Douglas right now tucked in behind Lewis Delmont, the orange Pro-Am leader, Jamie Doreen, Kieran Smart with them, and Isaac Doble is at the front of this group. You can see him in the foreground, and look at the long line of cars that's following it, because we do have Sam Smith third place in the orange Pro-Am class right behind Alex Meredith, and 5 attempts ahead of Benjamin Gregory as they all head up the rise into the braking zone. But snaking all over the place is Sam Smith, and Gregory here is going to be figured out an opportunity as all the cars in front there all take a little bit of grass and gravel with them. There comes Meredith looking up the inside, can't quite find it, and Benjamin Gregory also thinks about it as they all stay firmly within nose to tail touching distance. But as all these drivers coupled around right now, it really is action everywhere you look, and well, if only we could have a multi-screen split here, we'll be able to show you all the battling, but then you lose it all in definition on your screen. But as all the drivers make their way through right now, there's plenty to absorb as this race absolutely builds the limit, and I think that might be slowdowns there for both Alex Meredith and also Sam Smith that have been picked up. Alex Meredith serves here, but Sam Smith right now, well, that's for track limits at the chicane. He'll need to try and burn that sooner rather than later, but it's going to cost him a lot of time. But if he doesn't burn it before the time's up on that automated slowdown penalty, it'll be converted from a slowdown penalty into a drive-through. And therefore he goes intentionally deep there at Goddard in order to get the better run back. But Alex Meredith does not wait twice and tucks up the inside there to take the place of a Sam Smith. So Alex Meredith there being very tactical with his manoeuvring and making it count. But back to the very front of the field and down through the S's and in towards the old hairpin. Witvoet, Rd8 and Mikey Doble all together still, and Luciano Witvoet right now with the success balance from race number 1. He's in a very heavy car. He is absolutely hauling it around this circuit, and Wojciech Rd8 and Mikey Doble right there with him as Doble looks up the inside. He goes for it, contact between the two of them. It sends Rd8 sideways. Doble makes the move. However, that is not going to be a happy moment between the two of them, and well, Doble went for it knowing there was an opportunity to do so, but in the end just came in a little bit too hot under braking, and the Veloster driver there sending the Audi sideways. However, they both regained, and I wouldn't be surprised here if they're going to just try and focus on catching up to the back of Witvoet here with 2.5 laps to go, and we'll have to wait and see what happens after that. But definitely Rd8 there being given a slight push sideways, but to be fair, that does happen in touring car racing. You are going to see contact between them, so long as they keep it relatively fair and, well, make sure not to turn it into push to pass. But from all the battling here, we look a long way further down the order to Mark Sykes as behind. That is 3 wide there between Lee Horn, Dylan Hunter and Sam Van Olst. They got very edgy with regards to each other there, and well, I think all 3 drivers there may be having a conversation after the racing as to what exactly happened. But Mark Sykes is second of the orange AM runners. He is under a bit of pressure to try and find a way past Sean Dobie, third of the blue AM runners, and well, that's how they currently stand as they make the way down towards the S's. But these drivers all close together for now, as meanwhile I can tell you in the battle for second place in the Pro-Am class of the blue lobby, well, Mike Barber's fallen backwards. In fact, Phil McDougall has found his way back ahead of Mike Barber in recent history. Now, how has that happened is the question we need an answer to, and well, we believe it may have happened on lap number 9, and here's a quick replay to explain. Now, this was the battle between the two of them. They were battling much earlier, and it was Barber who got ahead, but in towards the chicane they went, and Mike Barber then completely off racing line on defence, and that enabled Phil McDougall to get ahead, and Nigel Stock then decided to intervene by looking around the outside, and that separated Phil McDougall and enabled him to break away as they then made the way onto subsequent laps. So Phil McDougall finally getting back into the blue Pro-Am lead, but Mike Barber will still be happy at the second place because he'll know that he's well ahead of championship rival Dylan Hunter at this time. But back to your live racing, and as we do, we're not too far away from the final lap of racing for the second race of the day, albeit Nigel Stock right now having to keep Mike Barber at bay, and the blue AM leader keeping the Pro-Am championship leader in the blue lobby behind. Indeed, 2 championship leaders here of 2 different classes. And, well, the AM leader right now keeping the Pram driver absolutely honest as they roar the way towards the S's. But here comes Joe Gibson. He fancies his opportunity. He wants to take on Barber himself, but Barber sees it coming and defends to the outside. So this is not going anywhere for the Goldwyn Motorsports driver, but he's got one more lap to be able to try and find it after the hairpins of this one. But back to leaders then. The white flag waves onto lap 13 of 13. And Luciano Witvoet ahead of Mikey Doble and Wojciech Rd8. Rd8 has fallen backwards after that contact. I think might be settling in for 3rd place. Joe Doble, Adam Dillon, Andrew Pike, your next trio. With then your orange prime leader of Lewis Delmont sitting in 7th. Quite comfortably in the lead of that class, with Kieran Smart down in 10th, the second of the runners. And between the two, Isaac Doble and blue overall leader Wayne Douglas. Further back, Jamie Dory is best the rest of the length, ahead of Tom Davidson, and Alex Meredith finds himself under pressure versus Benjamin Gregory for the final guaranteed spot in terms of the reverse grid for race number 3. And Gregory's just snatched that from him coming into Red Gate corner. William Guthrie right behind there as they all come charging on down the hill and in towards the old hairpin they go. But will there be a move? I don't think so at the moment. Sam Smith right there with him. But intriguingly, Sam Smith in fact in a slow run through the hairpin. I think backing off there 9, he's going to get the better run if he takes his time through the old hairpin and up towards McLean. So that's a smart move there from Smith, because his target is Benjamin Gregory. But under braking, that's contact between Meredith and Gregory. That sends Gregory wide, and Smith will take the place there. His patience has been rewarded, as meanwhile William Guthrie tapped on the rear by Mathew Addy. And I think there William Guthrie might have backed off out of fear of making contact. And Mathew Addy immediately up the inside as he wants to go hunting after Sam Smith for 3rd in the prime class. But it's not going to quite work out there for the orange lobby driver as he comes on through. But down the back straight they go, and Guthrie side by side here with Piotr Jigoslecki, who's pushing Addy along. Well, into the braking zone they go, and Guthrie up the inside will take the place. But from them, we must come back to the front of the field, ladies and gentlemen, because Mikey Doble may be breathing down the neck of Luciano Witvoet, but it's a run to line, and for Luciano Witvoet, it'll be victory in race number 2 here, just on time, ahead of Mikey Doble and Wojciech Rd8 in 3rd. Then in 4th place, Joe Doble, just holding off Adam Delmont to the finish line, ahead of none other than Andrew Pike. And then we did see Lewis Delmont there and taking 7th place overall, but orange prime victory ahead of Isaac Doble, Wayne Douglas and Kieran Smart round off your top 10, 2nd of the orange primes. Jamie Dory was 11th ahead of Tom Davidson, with Alex Meredith in 13th, taking the final guaranteed reverse grid spot, with Sam Smith there 3rd of your orange primes in 14th ahead of William Guthrie. Further back, Phil McDougall does come through to take blue pro and victory there in 20th place, ahead of blue and victor Nigel Stock. And Joe Gibson did find his way past Mike Barber, with Mike Barber finishing 3rd in the blue prime class, and the final of the eligible reverse grid positions in 23rd. Marcel Fritsch makes it an AM orange win there in 25th, ahead of his rival of Mark Sykes. Between them, however, your 2nd place finisher in the blue AMs of William Kurtler. And then we did see Mark Sykes here all the way down in 29th, with Sean Doby making it onto the blue AM podium in 30th. What an effort from him. Dylan Hunter was just behind there, and as all drivers make the way on through, unfortunately we did have an early retirement for Matthew Jordan. I think with technical issues the car did not make it to the start finish line, but as all the drivers head on the round here on their cool down laps, what a race, no doubt about it. And credit where it's due to Wayne Douglas, takes another blue overall win and blue pro class win as well. But with all that weight being inserted into the car after race number 1, much like what we saw at Knock Hill, well, he had to contend with the weight and did a brilliant job in trying to manage the car, but could not quite in the end keep up with the remainder of the top 8, and gradually it fell by the wayside. But I think he'll still be happy with his performance, and there's more to come in race number 3. But the driver you've got to feel for, ladies and gentlemen, is the man he's just making his way out the inside now, Mark Hughes, who was leading Blue Am after a brilliant race number 1 to carve his way through to 3rd, carved his way into lead of Blue Am in the early stages, and an instant that he just happened to be in the right place at the wrong time to be on the receiving end of, well, your Blue Am GBRC driver in the end having to settle for 6th place in the class. That's gutting, but he'll be coming back for race number 3, and I can imagine now the motivation will be even higher now he has got race leading pace in the 495 Audi RS3. But as all our drivers make their way into the pit lane, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look to the scenic view, and with it, let's bring you those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, after another 13 laps of racing here in race number 2 of round 8 of season 9 of the NXTCC, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles, Luciano Witvoet there taking victory overall for Welder Racing at STR Motorsports by 3 tenths over Doble Sim Racing's Mikey Doble. It was elbows out between the top 3, and none more so between Doble and his old rival Wojciech Rd8, who in the end he found his way through, but not without a bit of contact at McLean's, but Rd8 settling to 3rd there for Semper Racing. It was then a further 4 seconds to Doble Sim Racing's is Joe Doble, who made his way through the field in an absolutely determined drive, and from 8th took 4th ahead of Adam Delmont for Next Gen Green. The Sim Racing Collective esports driver Andrew Pike took 6th, and then a special mention to 7th place finisher Lewis Delmont for Next Gen Green for taking home the Orange Prime win and doing it through a 4-wide move around the outside at Melbourne. An incredible move, and Lewis Delmont right now, I think his dad's going to look back at that afterwards and be so proud of his son. Isaac Doble took 8th for Double Sim Racing, just ahead of Next Gen Black's Wayne Douglas, who took blue overall honours, and also in their pro class. But Kieran Smart there, round off the top 10 for Track Scotland, was run up in the Orange Pro-Ams. And Jamie Dory took 11th there for Next Gen Pink, ahead of Tom Davidson, with the Sim Racing Collective esports driver just holding off Alex Meredith, who in the end completed your top 13 for WSS Racing. And with that, it does mean he's your final guaranteed driver in that reverse grid. Sam Smith, 14th there on the road for iRacing Esports, but 3rd in the Orange Prime class. Another solid effort to a podium from him. Ahead of William Guthrie there for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport. And then Matthew Addy for WSS Racing, finishing 4th in the Orange Prime class, but ahead of a good number of rivals, including Benjamin Gregory. Peter Jablonski was the run-up in the Blue Pros for Semper Racing, ahead of Reese Watt, with the JWM drive being followed up by your Blue Prime winner, who makes it back-to-back Blue Prime wins. Phil McDougall there for 6R Project Black. Outside the top 20, in 21st it was Nigel Stott, your Blue Am winner there for Crest Autosport. Well done to him for making it 2 out of 2. With Joe Gibson for Goldwyn Motorsports, the runner-up in the Blue Pro-Ams, in an absolutely dogged and determined drive, making the move on QuakeMass Motorsports' Mike Barber right at the end there, and will taking up that run-up spot off the podium. Credit where it's due, however, to Mike Barber, still making his way onto the podium in the Blue Pro-Ams, and there'll be some key points there for him. And also he takes the final eligible reverse grid position should we draw the numbers 11 and 12 from the bowl. Ben Altrier and Marcel Fritsch completed your top 25 with the Verano esports driver, making it his first win of the day here at Donington Park in the Orange Am class, with Alan McCain then being followed up by William Kurtler for 27th, and Kurtler your runner-up there in the Blue Am class. Well done to the Aztec Racing driver. Lee Horn, Mark Sykes and Sean Dowie completed your top 30 with the WSS Racing driver of Sykes being your run-up in Orange Am, ahead of your 3rd place finisher on the Blue Am podium of Sean Dowie. Well done to the pair of them. Behind the 88 Tech Racing driver was Dylan Hunter in a frustrating second race a day, but gradually finding his feet for Adapt Sim Racing, ahead of Andy Chell for QuakeMass Motorsport. And then rounding off all your lead lap finishers, it was Michael Lees, Lewis Mason, Sam Van Olst and Ben Benneyworth, who were lapped down there to Conrad Kula, Mark Hughes, Mathew Cheverton and Fraser Rostance to complete your top 40. Outside the top 40, not to be forgotten about, Carl Thompson and Duncan Rye, with 5 laps down there to Alexander Paulik, and then non-finishes as classified for Slamir Javoski, Thomas Delaney, and a non-start there for Next Gen Pinks, Matthew Jordan. Well, 46 starters, ladies and gentlemen, and in the end, a grand total of 43 finishers, of which we did see 36 of them on the lead lap. And well, that keys us up very nicely then to go into our final race of the day here at the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Race number 3 is just around the corner, but you know what also is just around the corner much sooner on this, whereas of course our reverse grid draw for the final race of the day. And as we do cut to the commentary booth, well, let's go into our draw then as we make our way into the booth. And good evening to you all. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the racing so far. Well, I don't know if my vocal cords are enjoying it, but I'm definitely enjoying it here in the commentary booth. And as always, we do have our Next Gen Racing Lottery Bowl. The numbers 6 through to 12 are contained within it. And what we'll be doing very shortly is closing our eyes, shuffling the balls, and drawing 2 balls out the bowl. We'll add them together, and that is where we reverse the grid from. Without further ado, let's do the reverse grid draw then for round number 8. And there's the shuffle, and we take our first ball out the bowl. And our first ball is going to be, it's a low one. It is the number 7 that makes its second appearance for this time this season across both our lobbies. And well done to number 7 for appearing. But what will be added to it? Well, let's see as we take our second ball. Not without a shuffle. And we take our second ball out the bowl. And to go with the number 7, well, it is very close between the two of them. It's going to be 7 and 8, and both of these numbers making their second appearance. In fact, number 8 making its 3rd appearance this season. And that means it is going to be a top 15 reverse grid. And William Guthrie will line up on pole position for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, and he will be in the company of none other than Sam Smith, the Orange Prime driver who's fought hard for victory so far this season, and he has another golden opportunity. So that's the story then, going into race number 3 of the day, a top 15 reverse grid, and we'll be back for the build-up to it in approximately 10 minutes' time, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. You will not want to miss it. That I can assure you. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycles store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they say when it rains, it pours, and we have had an absolute pouring of brilliant racing over our first 2 races, but now the rain has arrived here. Those clouds that looked ominous earlier on, they finally come to full fruition, and the rain has started to fall here at the Donington Park circuit right at a critical juncture as everyone is getting set for the final race of the day here, a 13-lap conclusion to round number 8 of the championship, and well, with the weather being thrown into the mix as well, this is only going to make it even trickier for our drivers to try and find a way to come away on top. But what will our drivers do with regards to the tyre compound? Will they decide to go with the wet tyre? Will they decide to go with the dry tyre? Or will they decide to go somewhere in between? Well, all that and more, our drivers will keep us guessing all the way to the grid and throughout. And it will all depend on exactly where that rain falls and for how long it falls. That is going to be one of the big questions that will definitely be on the minds of our drivers, because the right tyre could be the difference between victory or finishing right at the back. One man who knows all about that, because he really has proven to be a weather master since the inception of Rain on iRacing, Lee Horn, and well, what set of performances he's had in previous rounds where he's been able to pick the right tyre at the right time to spring some surprises. And well, in fact, you know what we're going to do? We're going to try and get a word with Lee, if we can, very quickly whilst he's in the car and making his way on around. Give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll try and catch him. So as we get a patch through to the car of Lee Horn. Lee, you got time for a quick chat?
Hiya, Paul. Yeah, of course.
Lee, we know the one thing you absolutely love beyond touring car racing is wet weather conditions and touring car machines. The rain's just started falling at Donington Park. Surely this has got to be a golden opportunity for you.
Well, that I am hoping, Paul. After the bad luck I had in race 2, I'm hoping to, progress forward quite swiftly and safely, hopefully.
Well, bad luck in race number 2. You've technically got nothing to lose in this final race of the day. Only points to be gained. I've got to ask, though, which tyre are you going to go for, do you think?
Well, I was thinking intermediates at this point, but looking at the forecast, bear in mind we haven't got any either. It looks like it's going to hound it down. So I'll be starting on the wets for sure and sticking with the wets right through. Hopefully no one else is listening and they'll go on dries. That would be really good for me. But I suspect a lot of people would have looked at the forecast as well, like I have, and will be starting on the wets.
Well, fair play, Lee. Well, with that, we'll leave you to it. Good luck for race number 3.
Nice one. Thank you very much, Paul. Cheers.
Well, that was a quick word from Lee Horn, ladies and gents, and a bit of sideways moments as well from him. But as he makes his way around, well, very quickly we are going to try and catch a word with a man we tried to catch earlier on, and it was none other than Adam Delmont, as we try to get a patch through to the car of Adam Delmont for a brief moment. And as he makes his way around, we get the patch through now. Adam, can you hear us this time?
Yes, I can, Paul. How are you, buddy?
All good, thank you. But more importantly, how are you? How's this rain going to shake things up for you?
It's going to be interesting. I think it'll balance the weight out a little bit more, but yeah, I find this track particularly slippy compared to some of the others when it's wet. So it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. Just trying to keep it on the track and, you know, pointing this right way, I think.
Well, always a challenge just to keep pointing the right way. You've been in the thick of some incredible battles today in both races 1 and 2. Can we expect more of the same in race 3?
That's the plan, mate. Ideally, I'd like to maybe try and move a bit forward, but it's when you're all at a similar pace, it's quite difficult to get a move done, especially with the obviously the Honda being a little bit down on top speed. Even if you get a good run out, you're really struggling to get along, you know, alongside enough to even try and make a move. So bit of pressure games, really trying to see if you can force mistakes out of people. I think it's the best option, I think.
Well, make no mistake, Adam, we'll be looking forward to seeing what you can do in race 3. With that, we'll leave you to it. Good luck, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. A quick word from 2 of our drivers as they get themselves set, and well, both looking forward to seeing what the rain does to change up the dynamics of the racing. Lee Horn, they're saying excited for it. Meanwhile, Adam Delmont sees it as a bit of an equaliser for the weight in the car, and knowing with equal pace, it really is the pressure games between everyone. As we say hello there to L4L in the YouTube chat, and I hope you're doing well. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the rain has come. The forecast seems to show that it is going to be heavy rain all the way through, and well, it could be a prime opportunity for many. And one driver to keep in mind, of course, is our reverse grid pole sitter of none other than William Guthrie. He'll be hoping that this can be one that he can convert into a win. But for all that and more, you know what time it is. It's time to head to the grid for our final race of the day. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up then for race 3 of 3 of round number 8 of the NXTCC Season 9, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles. It is William Guthrie who takes a race 3 pole position for the second time this season after benefiting from the reverse grid draw in round number 2 much earlier on in the season. The full tilt Motorsport with boosted Motorsport driver joined on the front row of the grid by Sam Smith. He is your orange prime pole sitter for iRacing Esports. Alex Meredith begins this one in third for WSS Racing ahead of Tom Davidson for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and then behind them we have Jamie Dorey for NXTGEN Pink ahead of Kieran Smart for Track Scotland. This top 15 reverse grid continues with Wayne Douglas starting 7th for NXTGEN Black, looking to move forward, albeit with a lot of weight in the car, and Isaac Doble giving close company there on the 4th row of the grid for Doble Sim Racing. Lewis Delmont begins this one in 9th place for NXTGEN Green. Now he's got a few places to go through in order to try and make it back-to-back prime wins in the orange category, but if he can do it, he'll be very happy with it, and that'll be a big points haul there after missing out on Not Kill. And if not, the NXTGEN Green driver will have the firm company of the Sim Racing Collective Esports is Andrew Pike, who completes your top 10 and always seems to go well in wet conditions. Behind them, on row number 11, Adam Delwant, who we heard from only months ago for NXTGEN Green, waited to see how the rain balances out the weight, with Joe Doble alongside him, 12th place there for Doble Sim Racing. Behind the number 11, it's the number 80 of Wojciech Rd8 for Semper Racing, as he continues his fight with Mikey Doble, who joins him on row 7 from 14th for Doble Sim Racing. And then we do have Luciano Witvoet rounds off your reverse grid top 15 for all the race for STR Motorsports 9. He's got a long way to go in this one if he wants to try and make it to victory. On the way behind him will be Mathew Addy for WSS Racing, as will Benjamin Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, and Piotr Jaslewski for Semper Racing. They start 17th and 18th. We'll be looking to move forward from there. Completing your top 20 is Reswap for JW Motorsport ahead of Phil McDougall, the CXR Project Black driver, trying to make it 3 Blue Prime Class wins out of 3 here today. Then on row number 11, it's Nigel Stott, the blue AM pole sitter for Crest Autosport, ahead of Joe Gibson for Goldwyn Motorsports, with Mike Barber for Quatermass Motorsport just behind in their starting 23rd. 24th will go the way of Ben Altrier for Full Tilt Motorsport with Boosted Motorsport, where Marcel Fritsch started 25th for Rhino Esports there, your orange AM pole sitter. Alan McCain begins this one in 26th, just behind him for iRace Esports. And on round number 14, it's William Kurtler for Aztec Racing and Lee Horn for NXTGEN Pink, who knows he's got it all to do from 28th on the grid, but keep an eye out for him, he'll carve his way through. Mark Sykes begins this one 29th for WSS Racing ahead of Sean Doby for ATEC Racing. And outside the top 30, not to be forgotten about, 31st, Dylan Hunter for Adapt Sim Racing. Can he have a better race at the third time of trying here? We will see. If not, Andy Chell might get ahead of him for Quatermass Motorsport. And Michael Lees for JWM Motorsport and Lewis Mason for Aztec Racing will also be keen to move forward from the 17th row. Row 18 goes to Sam Vernols there for Goldwyn Motorsports, ahead of Ben Benneyworth for Quatermass Motorsport. And then we do have Conrad Kula for Semper Racing just behind 37th on the grid, and Mark Hughes. And a miserable end to race number 2, but can he find redemption here in race number 3 for GBRC? If not, Mathew Cheverton will be looking to move forward for Aztec Racing, as will Fraser Rostons for NXTGEN Black. And then behind them on row number 21, Carl Thompson for GBRC, ahead of Duncan Wright for Goldwyn Motorsports. And on your last full row of the grid, 44 starters in this one, ladies and gentlemen. Alexander Paulik for World of Racing with STR Motorsports, and Slamir Jarvosky for Semper Racing. Now, that's how they all lined up, and well, the engine's now starting to rise to a degree as all the drivers here trying to keep warm. The rain has stopped falling, but make no mistake, it's a wet tyre race, this one, and now the lights are going on for the final time today. It's 1, 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5, it's fire lights, and it's lights out, and away we go here at Donington Park for the final time today, as William Guthrie there tries to get away well. Driver's getting very eager there, as that is one of our JWM cars going wide at the final quarter, but making the way down towards turn number 1, Guthrie, Davidson, and Alex Meredith. They've all had lightning starts, but Meredith's had the best one of them all as they make the way through the corner, and well, that is going to see Tom Davidson go out wide, and Meredith immediately up into second place here as they make the way down the hill. They all do, and well, the blimp camera there, bit misty in terms of what it can see, but the key figure is you can see all the drivers safely on through into Hollywood and now down into the crater curves, and everyone tiptoeing the way through, but the leaders have already gone one by one formation. They're able to carry a lot more speed and into the old hairpin. That is where they'll feel as though they'll be able to break away. Cars into the grass there. Oh no, it's all gone wrong in the rear of the picture, and that's about 5-6 cars all being caught up. Mark Sykes in amongst all that, as was Duncan Wright, as was also Mark Hughes. It's all gone wrong for them, but let's come back to your lower cameras, and as we do, well, right now side by side there between Andy Cho and Lewis Mason. Chell trying to find a way back ahead of Lewis Mason, who's had a brilliant start to this race and already 4 places gained in the Blue Am class. But all these drivers heading around right now, and from the very back of the field towards the very front, that is Sam Smith going very sideways. He's hooked onto Wayne Douglas as they come on through Coppice Bend, and suddenly that's going to cause the whole field to queue up. And in fact, Sam Smith's been ejected to the grass there. As they all look left, they look right. It's a long line of cars here, and everyone right now stumbling over each other, with some cars going slowly. The whole field's caught up behind them. Onto the brakes here, into the S's they go, and all the drivers here have to be a bit patient with each other, as much as they don't want to be. And Sam Smith and Benjamin Gregory side by side, but Smith being ejected out to the grass even more. So Sam Smith falling down the field once, falls down the field twice, and now for Sam Smith, this is turning into a race of nightmares as he falls all the way down to 21st place, having started all the way on what was the second row of the grid. Well, as he makes his way around, in fact, the first row of the grid, I should say, he started in second place. Now that I think about it, well, Sam Smith now got to try and get his way back in with a lot of success balancing the car as well. That's going to be a lot easier said than done. But after one lap of racing, it's William Guthrie who continues to lead by only 2 tenths over Jamie Dory right behind. Tom Davidson sits in third, with Alex Meredith and Lewis Delmont completing your top 5. Lewis Delmont being your leading orange Pram driver. Wayne Douglas holds in 6th, with Isaac Doble 7th ahead of Adam Delmont. And then we have Wojciech Swiderczyk and Luciano Witvoet completing your top 10. Kieran Smart in best rest position, 11th place, is the second of your orange prime drivers. But Isaac Doble and Wayne Douglas go side by side down the hill, but Isaac Doble on the inside there does not waste any time. William Guthrie, meanwhile, he's under pressure. Jamie Dory, who takes a lot of the entry curb there, but you don't want to use the entry curb at the old hairpin. He has to rejoin, and he gets it back on. But it's going to be Wayne Douglas now side by side here with Jamie Dory as they head up the hill. Will he be able to find a way round? Well, I don't think so in the end, because he's going to take some grass, and as a result drops behind as Adam Delmont makes a place. So it's going to be changed between all of them as these drivers head up the hill and rapid the way up towards Coppice Bend. Further down the order, well, we've had a bit of drama further back. Nigel Stark, who was looking to try and make it another Blue Am win, well, he's fallen down there to 6th place of the class as William Kirtler gets ahead of him, and Alexander Pollock and Fraser Rostons have crept through too. Your leader now in Blue Am is Lewis Mason, who's absolutely flying here in these wet conditions right now, and the 991 driver has got his head down and is carrying on as much as he possibly can. And Andy Chell and Mark Hughes are together, and look, Hughes, well, we said he needed a bit of a better race, and right now Mark Hughes is absolutely storming through the field as well. So we ride on board here with the 3rd place Blue Am driver, the GBRC on the back of Andy Chell, and well, Chell going a bit sideways there coming through at the chicane, albeit that's going to be Alan McCain going defensive there, trying to say to Chell to know where he needs to stand behind. But Mark Hughes here figured out a move. Chell goes all in, that sends them both wide, and Mark Hughes there gets biffed in the side as well. That's late braking for Michael Lees. That is going to ping pong him around, and in the end, well, there's a bit more elbows out there, and Alan McCain's not too happy with how things have gone. Michael Lees has backed off to give the place back to Mark Hughes, but Hughes there was a gold opportunity, and in the end he took it, but his rivals around him end up being a little bit too aggressive with it. But whilst all this is happening, meanwhile at the front of the field, Alex Meredith has taken the lead in this race for William Guthrie, with Lewis Delmont up into 3rd, and we've had several drivers fall backwards into the pack, including Jamie Dory and Tom Davidson. Well, Dory, of course, for that mistake at the old hairpin on the previous lap, that explains that one, but meanwhile Tom Davidson still trying to find redemption after what was a difficult start to this race. They saw him drop all the way down at the bottom end of the top 10, but as they make their way through the right-handers, well, right now, keeping his head down is Tom Davidson, trying to get his way back into this one as Alex Meredith. Well, how long has it been since we've seen Alex Meredith contesting an overall win of an NXTCC race? You would have to go back 2 seasons to find him contesting an overall win. And right now, Alex Meredith leading this one for now as the rain starts to fall again. They did say there'd be more rain on the forecast. And Alex Meredith right now trying to break away with William Guthrie, giving him a hot pursuit. But further back, Tom Davidson side by side with Lewis Delmont here. And Delmont, that's brave around the outside and on an exit curve at Coppice Bend. There's a lot of standing water there. And we'll roaring the way onwards, as I can see, and say hello to Whiskey Runners Racing account, and also to the Welsh Boy 2012 account there, both of them in the YouTube chat cheering on Alex Meredith, who's having an absolute blinder, to quote Welsh Boy. I hope you haven't copyrighted that one, because we've just taken it from you, albeit for a brief moment. I'm sure you'll understand in jest. But meanwhile, as all tries to come through the S's once again, well, Benjamin Gregory here right now starting to really pick up the pace in 2nd place in Orange Pro-Am, as you can see there, under a bit of pressure of Wojciech Swiderczyk, as Adam Delmont gets turned around, clipped on the side there of, I believe, that might have been his own teammate and his son Lewis Delmont someone he came into contact with. I can't quite recall which car it was, but Lewis Delton was there beside him. Or certainly it was Wayne Douglas. One of the two of them were right there with him, and that sent the pair of them on around. But roaring the way on down and through, well, Alex Meredith pushing on, and Father John, meanwhile, well, he's very happy to see his son leading this one at the moment, and I'm sure his mum also will be cheering him on, Catherine Meredith. And as they roar the way to the opening corner on lap number 4, well, that rain continues to fall, and well, Alex Meredith right now just trying to find a better line. The racing line does go out the window once it starts raining, particularly at a circuit like Donington Park, because coming down here through Hollywood and the crane of curves, if the racing line has any standing water on it, or flowing water we should say, you do not want to get swept away in the river. But right now, make no mistake, Alex Meredith doing everything he can to make sure he sweeps away with this one. Mark Hughes, meanwhile, well, he's over the back of Ben Benneyworth, trying to make his way further up. He's into second of the Blue Ams. Lewis Mason is the best part of 8 places ahead of him, but Mark Hughes right now is on Am leading pace. He is absolutely flying out there, and that's before we consider that Mark Sykes is your leader of the Orange Ams here. Marcel Fritsch had a nightmare start with regards to the altercation through turns 2, 3 and 4, and well, Mark Sykes has been the one to survive it all. But speaking of survival, we take a look back at what exactly happened at the start of the race, and here's a quick replay to explain, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this all began at the very front of the field with Kieran Smart having a bit of a moment, coming on through Redgate Bend, made his way out through the corner, and as he did so, a cut across there from, I believe, the iRacing sports car Sam Smith, and that saw Kieran Smart briefly take a trip to the weeds before he rejoined. Then we did have this happen for the likes of William Kurtler and Dylan Hunter making the way down through Hollywood. And as they came on down, Hunter and Kurtler side by side, making the way through, both of them snaking the way through, and both losing it there of their own volition. So these two, both getting a little bit too trigger happy of the throttle. Also there, we saw multiple gov, and somehow, my goodness, Mark Hughes, they're keeping it together, but it all went wrong for drivers further back. How exactly did Mark Sykes have it all go wrong there at the start? We're right on board here with a man who definitely will have been in the popcorn seat view for a lot of it. And well, you can see there goes Kurtler, there goes Hunter, and Sykes losing the rear as well on that tight line. And well, a lot of them all ended up in a bit of a gravel yard or graveyard, depending on your perspective of cars. But thankfully, nobody coming to a stop and everyone keep going, as that was the car turn, and that was Marcel Fritsch who'd gone around there. Not quite sure how he got turned around, but he definitely did. And that's what explained between all of them. Well, we do see there the time consumer saying that someone went hard into Marcel Fritsch as well. And well, as all drivers make the way on around and we come back to your live pictures, we will potentially get a replay of some of those moments a little bit later. But right now, we're coming back to live racing because this is where all the peak action is as they charge away on through. And Alex Meredith now has a 1.6 second gap as William Guthrie here trying to hold on, and the Full Tilt Motorsport team will be absolutely egging him on. But that's a quick look up the inside. Isaac Doble taps him on the rear, and William Guthrie in the end just holds on for now. And I think Isaac Doble at this point wanted to tempt his fate, test his luck, but the problem is the more he does that, Jamie Doreen, Tom Davidson will get a bit firm with him, and that is Davidson up the inside there. Doreen making the way all the way through Coppice Bend. Well, roaring the way on down in towards turn number 8 and 9. Very shortly coming down in towards the S's. These drivers right now absolutely push each other's onwards as we do say hello to Mark Kent in the Twitch chat, who's having some issues with the YouTube chat. But to be fair, Mark, or Mr. Time Consumer, we're very happy to have you with here. And indeed, you can consume all of our time. As meanwhile, we're calling time on the race there. Benjamin Gregory, who's gone straight across the road and in towards what is the Gollard's hairpin. I believe Gregory, as a result, will come into the pit lane effectively because he will be deemed by the automated stewarding system to have cut the track and gained an unfair advantage. But Benjamin Gregory right now can't believe his luck, ejected to the gravel and slid off the road. How exactly did that happen? Here's a replay to explain. And as he made his way on down here, well, what you're going to see under braking, he looked to the inside of Wayne Douglas, but something tells me he got tapped on the rear. And in fact, that was Douglas on his outside, snaking under braking, as did Gregory. And Benjamin Gregory just been sent straight across. And at that point, there was no going back. He had to go straight on. He would never have got the car turned around. And with Benjamin Gregory, that is a nightmare moment. And he's in the pit lane now, naturally, of course, because he is having to serve a time penalty for the fact that he has, quote-unquote, gained an unfair advantage. But that is the way the automated stewarding system works on iRacing, and unfortunately there's not much we can do about that, even though we do have our own race director here today. But coming back to all of our racing, well, the front of the field is definitely exciting, the middle of the field is exciting, and that is going to be a bit of excitement there because that is going to be one of the Doble Sim Racing cars, and it's sideways there. Joe Doble goes sideways, Conrad Kula goes sideways, they're all over the shop, and as they come up the hill, that's 3 wide coming in towards Schwann's curve, albeit from Starkey's to Schwann's, it's all going to be backing out there between drivers as Reese Watts somehow picks his way in the scrabble, and then up towards the right-hander for what is turn number 7. It's sideways there, and that's Addy going round almost. Mathew Alley just about keeps it pointed in a straight line. Ben Benneyworth almost went with him. I do not know how Ben Benneyworth gets together. And there is the 65 of Isaac Doble parked up. It's all going wrong. It's all going madness in this mid-pack right now. Isaac Doble's trying to get himself back onto the circuit. I'm not quite sure how he got sent that way, but he has done, and it's absolute pandemonium here. And we're not even at the halfway point of this race. And well, meanwhile, whilst all this is happening, well, Mark Hughes is still on a charge. Lewis Mason's under ground pressure. More rain falls. Here is Lewis Mason for perspective, as we can see Ben Benneyworth there trying to make a move on Alan McCain, but can't quite find it. And just behind there is Mark Hughes, 3 places back, and continue to tear his way through the field. But as he does so, some more places to come here, no doubt about it. But in the scramble and the scrabble of all these places, well, Sam Smith, meanwhile, still battling with Kieran Smart, with Adam Delmont right behind him. Up the crest they go and up towards Goddard's hairpin, and well, as they come onto the brakes, Kieran Smart there trying to keep Smith behind him on the outside, because Smith right now very eager to go that outside line. Feels as though there's more grip out there, but Adam Delmont just squeezes his way out the inside and says, no you don't, I'll take that off of you, thank you very much. And I don't think Smith's just going to wilt over here and let this one go. I'll have to wait to see what's going to happen as they head in towards turn 1 this time, and where it will be 2 by 2, and Sam Smith back on the inside of Delmont here. So Adam Delmont find his match from the Pro-Am driver, and well, Delmont's still there as they head down in towards Hollywood, but surely one of them's got to back out here. Too wide in the wet for Hollywood and Craner. That does not work at the best of times. Smith's going to brave it here, as is Delmont. They're going to make contact, and as they do, they both catch it just about. My goodness, that is absolutely on the edge there. And I can tell you right now, in the race director booth, they're sat right aside me in the race directors. They're holding their breath for these two, because that was absolutely on a knife edge. As Delmont there goes at the inside, Smith takes some grass. Too wide again, curving for Schwantz in towards McLean's. There's absolutely nothing between these two. And Delmont and Smith right now, they are having an absolute highlight reel of a race between them. But up into Coppice Bend, it goes round. Michael Lease goes round. Takes too much the entry curve on the left-hand side of the road from his perspective. He catches it on the grass, but my good lord, the JWM car, well, it comes back out ahead of Joe Gibson, and Gibson's probably figured, how on earth did that get there? Well, I don't think Joe's going to realise what exactly has happened, as Delmont and Smith are still too wide. Oh, it's Smith, they lose out the braking. Does he make it to the apex? He does, but Adam Delmont gets ahead of him there and finally settles the difference between the two of them, and in good time as well, because at the front of the field, Jamie Dory right now still battling here with Tom Davidson. These two are still fighting. William Guthrie's fallen behind them. Alex Meredith is already 6 seconds up the road. He's checked out from this one as Meredith, presuming he keeps it on the road, of course, not to put the commentator's curse on him, but we don't want to assume he's going to win this one until it's over. But there you can see, there's a Guthrie. Guthrie comes into contact with Dory and gets ejected to the grass. And William Guthrie, they'll be absolutely fuming. The two guys getting hooked together, and toes to the pits there, knowing that his race now is in the weeds and he's never going to be getting out of the grass there anytime soon. But as all these drivers continue to push it onwards, well, we need to take a look back at what happened to Isaac Doble only a few months ago, back on lap number 6. And this was up towards Coppice Bend, where he ended up being turned around. Now, he was battling it with Jamie Dory and William Guthrie at the time. Tom Davidson was right behind him. And in the end, onto braking, came across the path there, William Guthrie, or the two met each other in the middle. And Isaac Doble and then into the gravel and the grass, and had to wait for a safe opportunity to return to the racing. We then had this happen only months ago for Lee Horn on lap number 7. And well, Lee Horn was already off the road at the old hairpin, so I'm not quite sure how he got there. Multiple cars off. In fact, that behind him was Phil McDougall being ejected to the gravel as well. There's been a big incident or shunt of some description. And well, can we get a replay back as to what happened to Lee Horn? The answer is yes, we can. This was with Kieran Smart there as they made the way down through Craner. And, well, Horn already going sideways, went around, and that is what sent him all the way. And he went to the barrier there. There was no coming back from that one for Lee Horn. And Phil McDougall had pretty much the same as he made his way through, only moments after that. But back to your live racing we go on lap number 8 here of 13. We don't shorten the race, indeed. We've got plenty of time here with regards to our race schedules. Jamie Dory there being a bit inventive with track limits, albeit I think that's where he's just overextended the braking zone. He has picked up a slowdown penalty, which he'll have to serve within 30 seconds of being awarded, otherwise it becomes a drive-through. So Dory right now trying to bleed speed, which he does so in towards the hairpin there of Melbourne, so he doesn't really lose anything. He hasn't really gained anything either, to be fair. Oh my goodness, that is a big snap bit of contact there between himself and Tom Davidson. Dory somehow survives that and doesn't go to the tyre barrier, or ends up doing another lap of the circuit, and will brings himself back on in 7th place. My good lord. Well, to be fair, there may be drama, but the car control these drivers are showing when it does go wrong is absolutely incredible. And Tom Davidson now is up into 2nd, albeit Alex Meredith is 8 seconds clear, and it's 2 by 2 as the rest of the top 7 make the way in towards Redgate Corner again. And Andrew Pike looking around the outside here, Dory. He's going to try and get the momentum initially, as we do have a disqualification for Mathew Cheverton. Not quite sure why that's been awarded. I believe that may be due to a slowdown penalty or some description of penalty that hasn't been served. But as they come down in towards the old hairpin, we can see there Joe Doble right now falling back a little bit of a poor run. Further behind, Ben Benneyworth really is the cork in the very bottle for the next pack of cars. Albeit Conrad Cooler's immediately going to force the cork out the bottle. As off into the gravel goes Michael Lees. And as all these drivers coming through, that's a bit of contact there. That's going to send Conrad Cooler out onto the, what is the rumble strip. We're heading up towards McLeod's right now. Ben Benneyworth absolutely trying to hold on as much as he possibly can here, as it's absolute hammer and tongs between all these drivers, and going in towards Coppice Ben. Benneyworth right now trying to hold on to second place in Orange Pro-Am, 9th overall, but trying to keep Rhys Watt behind. But in the process of doing so, he is causing one of the biggest traffic jams that Leicestershire has ever experienced in recent history. I can't blame him for it, to be honest, because he does everything he can to make himself as wide as possible. Rhys Watt looks around the outside, no avail there, and Conrad Cooler just has to wait, watch and listen. But these drivers right now run on tenterhooks and in cars that have got a lot less weight in them compared to some of their rivals further down the order. But from them, as we do see a move being made here by Conrad Cooler. Can he get up the inside of Watt in towards Melbourne? He's going to go for it. A bit of slide under brake in there. The puddle forming at the bottom of this hairpin right now is absolutely huge. You can see all the water there, and well, up the hill they go in towards the Goddard's hairpin. And as they do, Mathew, Addy and Rhys Watt side by side. Addy trying to get ahead of Watt here. Watt being swamped by Cooler. Free wide they go in towards the corner, and as they exit, well, Mathew Addy on the outside there. He's not going to have to run, or is he? Yes, he is, because Rhys went in, can't get the power down, and it's going to be up towards Redgate they come. These drivers still together, but Mathew Addy does take third place off of Rhys Watt in the Orange Pro-Ams. But whilst all this has been happening, we've had drama for Adam Delmont, who's dropped all the way down the order. What's happened to the next-gen green driver? Well, here we go to explain. Now, this was Adam Delmont, will making his way in towards Melbourne. As he did, Wayne Douglas came charging into the scene in the instant and turned Adam Delmont sideways, and Kieran Smart with him. But I think Adam Delmont was already knocked down the order a bit more before that, I must say, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have to try and see what's happened there, albeit I think Adam Delmont in the end just being turned sideways that much and being sent down the order. I can't see anything else, in fact, so I might be wrong on that one. But as iRacing continues, we come back right into the scene of madness. And, well, with that madness, Mark Hughes has dropped down the order to third place in the blue AM class. In fact, is that him on the grass? Yes, it is. Mark Hughes has been in drama, coming for the old hairpin. And suddenly, well, he rejoins. Isaac Dole's just in front. Michael Lees is just behind. Nigel Stock has just got back ahead, as is William Kurtler. And Lewis Mason is still leading in the blue AM class, albeit now Fraser Rostance is trying to chase after him, and Fraser Rostance in the number 82, well, he'll fancy his chances given the fact that his pace right now is matching Lewis Mason, if not surpassing him, with only a couple more laps to go. So the blue AM class really is the scene of a topsy-turvy race. Well, that could be said for many drivers. Duncan Rye's going to try and go around the outside of Rostance. Rostance immediately backs off there into the SS9. There's no point fighting with the orange Pro-Am driver, and the Goldwyn Motorsports car is allowed to move forward. And Alan McCain here, I think, will also go around the outside of Rostance as they come down towards Melbourne, and Rostance gives that up very quickly. But all these drivers roaring their way onwards. Well, Alex Meredith is absolutely running off. There he is. 7.5 seconds clear of Wojciech Swierdijk. And then there's the rest of the field giving chase as they all try to catch up to Meredith. But right now, he's very much in control of this race in terms of the gap, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes. Mikey Doble still fighting with Jamie Dory here, albeit Dory a little bit further behind. And Lewis Delmont there with them, as Joe Doble breathing down the neck of Lewis Delmont as they roll away through Hollywood and the Craner curves. But down from the right and in towards the left they go, and as they do, a big slide there from Joe Doble, just about keeps it pointed in a straight line. And well, Andrew Pike and Ben Benneyworth following on suit. As you can see, Altria here, well, he's broken away from Cooler and Rhys Watt with all the altercations between those drivers over the recent laps. But Davison versus Swierdijk, Swierdijk's there. Oh my goodness, that is a very sideways Audi. We don't normally see the Audi go that sideways. It's normally the most straight of all these cars, but Swierdijk still right under pressure from Tom Davidson, and Mikey Doble coming back at him once again as we ride on board here with the Double Sim Racing #1 driver, and we'll run his way through defending champion here, looking for that 5th title, and knowing some big points today could definitely help him on his way. But there, Tom Davidson on the outside as they power their way on through, and Davidson in fact with a poor exit out of Coppice Bend. That's going to cost him all the momentum, and in tax it's going to lead to Jamie Dory getting ahead, and Swierdijk and Doble are right together as they make their way between the S's here. There's 2 more laps to go after this one, and anything's possible in the hunt for the runner-up spot here, but these drivers all push each other to the limit, and now Jamie Dory trying to look around the outside of his old rival as they head onto the brakes here. Indeed, our 3 NXTCC champions all in a single view there, all battling for second place right now, and then Tom Davidson with no NXTCC championship to his name, but a season best in terms of his title credentials, being a 5th place in an overall Drivers' Championship, hailing back to season 6 if my memory serves me correctly. Well, Tom Davidson right now definitely staying right behind the 3 NXTCC champions as they head onto the penultimate lap. But roaring the way onwards at the moment, these drivers all still trying to keep it alive, keep it well in the hunt of the race. Indeed, they are all on tender hooks at the moment. You can understand why, when it's one small mistake that could be the difference between you finishing where you currently are versus finishing in the pit lane and having the race all go wrong. But speaking of a driver who had it go wrong in the early stages, Luciano Witvoet here battling with Rd8 for 11th place. He's trying to get a few more overall points back on the board before this one is said and done. But Rd8 right now holding on to 3rd in the Pro-Am class. He's doing a good job there in Pro-Am Orange, we should point out. And we're a bit further behind. Here is your blue Pro-Am leader. It's Mike Barber. Well, the win eluded him in races 1 and 2. But right now, he's definitely on course for it here in race number 3, because the next nearest driver is all the way down in 37th place. Only 21 places behind, and that's Joe Gibson ahead of Dylan Hunter, with the majority of their class having to retire from the race otherwise. But with a big spray there heading up in towards McLean's, that's Mathew Addy and Rd8 side by side again in their fight for 3rd of the Orange Pro-Ams. And here comes the big deluge cars, because Kieran Smart's with them. Oh no, that's all gone wrong, and that is Rd8 ejected to the grass with Mathew Addy getting combined in with him. I don't think it was Addy who started it. I think it might have been Kieran Smart unsighted there, but definitely in the end it was none other than Rd8 who came off the worst of all 3 of them. Can we get a replay of that quickly? I think we can, and indeed we can, of Kieran Smart here as they went through. So on the replay, Kieran Smart right behind it, got the power down. I think he's going to get squeezed there. Yes, he is. He gets pinched between the 2 Audi drivers who don't realise that Smart's trying to carve his way between the 2 of them, and that's what brings them together. And Kieran Smart gets away with that one, albeit I think the stewards' room afterwards will be where the place where all 3 of them will have a bit of a talking to. But Smart holds on to that 3rd place in Orange Pro-Am for now. Well, the last lap of the race gets underway. The white flag waves, and Alex Meredith still 6.5 seconds clear in control of this. Wojciech Rd8 meanwhile in 2nd place, holding on versus Mikey Doble and Jamie Dory. With Jamie Dory looking around the outside there now into Redgate. Can't quite find it at the moment. Mikey Doble proving to be the equal of his measure, and Tom Davidson still with them as they all head down towards turn number 4, roaring the way in towards Redgate Bend. But as they do, all these drivers are very close together and will roaring the way on through. It is going to be right now really this battle for 2nd place that takes centre stage inside that top 10 all the way to the conclusion. And well, I do see there the time consumer saying that the last time Alex Meredith took an overall win might have been Hockenheim in season 7. I think you're spot on there, to be fair, Mark Ken, in the Twitch chat. I think that was his last overall win, a very emphatic one there, where in the end he was able just to hold on all the way to the finish. And well, given the fact it will have been the best part of 2 seasons with a little bit extra since then, it has been a long while for him. But as all our drivers slide their way through the corners here, it really is right now all about finding the last little percentage of grip, and Rd8, Doble and Dory push each other to the limit, and Jamie Dory finds the grass with it. That's going to enable Davidson to get ahead, and now Joseph Doble is going to look around the outside of him in towards the S's, but I don't think he's going to quite find it at the moment as Wayne Douglas has been involved in an instant. Oh, that's all the way off into the gravel there coming out of McLean's. We can't really dwell on that for too long as Conrad Kula, meanwhile, we battle side by side with Luciano Witvoet. Can Witvoet get ahead of him into the S's? The answer is yes, he can. From them, well, we see 2 by 2 here between our drivers as they come on through Melbourne, and Davison, Dory and Doble together. But from them, ladies and gentlemen, we'll look at this. Out of the final corner, he does wear the run of Ned Kelly, because he's run away with this one like a convict for Whiskey Runners Racing, and Alex Meredith will take his first win in 2 seasons overall in the NXTCC. What a drive from the WSS Racing driver. Absolute stealing it today, ahead of Wojciech Rd8 in 2nd place, ahead of Mikey Doble 3rd, Jamie Dory in 4th, and then Joe Doble completes your top 5 ahead of Andrew Pike and Tom Davidson. Lewis Delmont takes Prime Orange win ahead of Ben Altria by 3 seconds, and then it will be Luciano Witvoet who rounds off your top 10. Conrad Kula, Adam Delmont and Kieran Smart 3rd of the Orange Primes in 13th. Ben Benneyworth Benneyworth, your pro winner in blue, ahead of Mike Barber, who finishes 15th in the end, but blue pro victory there for the Quaker Mass Motorsport driver. He'll be absolutely ecstatic with that. Lewis Mason wasn't too far behind for the AM blue win. What a drive from the Aztec Racing driver there. He excels in these conditions, no doubt about it. And then as all drives come to the finish, well, it was second place in the blue AM class there for Fraser Rostance for season best performance for the Next Gen Black driver. What a drive from him. William Kurtler took third place in blue AM. Reese Watt, meanwhile, ends up in the tyre barrier. They're not quite sure how he got there. Marcel Fritsch will head to the line, and it will be for him an orange AM win, and he makes it 2 out of 3 here today, Marcel Fritsch, just ahead of Mark Sykes, who comes across the line 2 seconds behind. One effort from the pair of them. We'll then have, in a bit of time, Joe Gibson in a survival of the fittest race. Well, we will see Joe Gibson makes his way on round. And he's got a bit of time here to make his way to the finish. But I get the feeling that right now for Joe Gibson, he's not going to quite believe it when he realises that this is going to be a second place of the Pro-Am class. And the only other drivers running in that class right now, where it's Dylan Hunter who's holding on to third a bit further back. Indeed, it has been such a race of attrition in the blue Pro-Am class that for Joe Gibson, well, he survived to take second here. And he's going to make his way out the final quarter. And I think he'll be absolutely exhausted after that one. But as he comes to the line, he'll be happy with it as well. He knows what he's done, and he knows it's a big result for him. As here comes Dylan Hunter as well, as he's surrounded by cars that are on cool-down laps here. So this is going to make it even mentally tougher for Dylan Hunter. But in fact, I do believe he's on his own cool-down lap, a lap down effectively. But he'll be third of your blue Pro-Am drivers as he makes his way to the pit lane. But as they all covered in, what a race, ladies and gentlemen. The rain arrived for our final race of the day, and with it ups the ante from races 1 and 2 to an absolutely sensational peak. But as everybody makes their way into the pit lane, let's take a look to those scenic views, and with it, those race results for our final race of the day. And as we can see then, after an incredible run of races, well, for Alex Meredith, races 1 and 2 were good, but race number 3 here at Donington Park was a dream come true, and the WSS Racing driver conquering the conditions, running the way from the field, and well, the Whiskey Runners machine in the end taking victory, the number 19 standing tall. And well, I could already see Father John there in the YouTube chat, absolutely proud of his son. Wojciech Rd8, second in the end for Semper Racing. What a drive from him to hold off the charge and intentions of Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing, for Jamie Dory for Next Gen Pink, and Joe Doble there for Doble Sim Racing to round off your top 5. It was only a further half a second to Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, who in the end finished ahead of his teammate Tom Davidson. But you've got to understand, if Tom Davidson right now must be asking himself the question, how on earth did I finish 7th given I was fighting for the podium for so long in this race? Well, in the end, the moves at the end didn't quite work out for him. Lewis Delmont took 8th place on the road, but more importantly for him, Pro-Am Orange win. Well done to the Next Gen Green driver, ahead of runner-up in the Orange Pro-Am class, Ben Altrier for Full Tilt in Motorsport with Boosted Motorsports. Then we did see Luciano Witvoet 10th there for World of Racing from STR Motorsports, and only half a second behind Conrad Kula for Semper Racing, best of the rest in 11th place. Adam Delmont was 12th for Next Gen Green, ahead of Kieran Smart, with third place in the Pro-Am Orange class there for the Track Scotland driver in a very smart set of races today, and no doubt about it. That's not a pun on his surname, by the way, but he did play it very well over the distance to make sure he got some good points on the board. Ben Benneyworth, 14th, but for him, overall victory in the blue lobby for Quaker Mass Motorsport, ahead of teammate Mike Barber, who makes it blue Pro-Am victory in 15th. What a drive from Mike, given the fact that races 1 and 2 left a lot of questions out there, but race number 3 was able to patch up those questions and answer 1 or 2 of them. Just behind him, Lewis Mason for Aztec Racing takes blue AM honours. What a win from him for the 991 driver. A phenomenal drive there in these wet conditions. And then completing a top 20, it was Duncan Rye, Alexander Paulik, Matthew Addy and Sam Smith. Outside the top 20, not to be forgotten about there, 21st, Wayne Douglas for Next Gen Black in a bit of a difficult race number 3 with plenty a scrap and a bump and scrape. He was ahead of iRacing Esports' Alan McCain. And then runner-up in the blue AM class, Fraser Rostance there by 3 seconds for Next Gen Black over William Kurtler, who completed your blue AM podium, and a double podium there for Aztec Racing. Reese Watt was 25th, ahead of Mark Hughes. The GBRC driver's not going to quite believe his misfortune today after running so well in race number 1. Race number 2, it was a nightmare, and race number 3, it was all going in the right direction until a huge altercation at the old hairpin sent him back to 4th in the blue AM class, which is where he finished. Nigel Stott and Sean Doby were right behind him, with Piotr Jegoslavski and Michael Lees completing your top 30. Isidore was 31st, ahead of Andy Chell, with Lee Horn 33rd, and behind the next-gen pink driver, then you came to your orange AM podium finishers of Marcel Fritsch for Verana Uber Esports and WSS Racing's Mark Sykes a further 2 seconds behind. Benjamin Green was 36th in the end, a frustrating race for him, but ahead of Joe Gibson, who was your runner-up in the blue Pro-Am class for Goldwyn Motorsports, and a lap down, but third on the blue Pro-Am podium. Dylan Hunter there for the Adapt Sim Racing, who really will want to put this round to bed now because it has not been a round that's favoured him whatsoever. Your top 40 was completed by Slamir Jarvosky and Mathew Cheverton, with Cheverton being 5 laps down but still classified as a finisher. And in the end, we did have non-finishes for William Guthrie, Phil McDougall, Sam Van Olst and Cole Thompson. So 44 starters, and in the end, a grand total of 40 finishers, ladies and gentlemen, of which 37 on the lead lap. A great night of racing, and indeed Time Consumer there, or Mark Kent in the Twitch chat, could not have said it better himself, and we're glad to have you with us, Mark, and I hope you have a good evening. But of course, for those who are able to stay around, don't go anywhere, because in about 10 minutes' time, we will have our post-round interviews of our volunteer drivers, and given the intensity of the racing today, they're going to be interviews you won't want to miss. We will see you again very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And today, we're going to be hearing from a mixture of names, including, firstly, Alex Meredith from WSS Racing, with that absolutely brilliant drive to victory as he jumps in immediately with me now. He's so excited to get in, and it's great to have him with us. Alex, what a round from yourself. I mean, race number 3 is going to be the ultimate highlight, but you've had a brilliant set of results today in some very fierce fighting. But how do you feel after all the racing at Donington?
Tired. Honestly, such a crazy set of races. Race 1 and 2, for me, they felt quite disappointing. I felt like I could have gone a little bit higher than I did. Just my mistakes. Just being a little bit silly, a little bit over exuberant. But then race 3, it just all came together. I love those conditions anyway. The full extreme wet conditions. I just love finding where the grip is. And I made my move early. Everybody else battled behind me, and then I could just kind of walk off with it. And then by the end, yeah, I could just relax, really.
Well, without a doubt, a very relaxing conclusion to race number 3. But we're winding it all back to perhaps the less relaxing parts of the day, starting with qualifying. 13th overall, 11th in class in the Whiskey Runners Veloster. Qualifying was incredibly tight, but from your perspective, perhaps there was a top 10 on the cards. What went wrong? What went right?
Definitely a top 10 on the cards. I was kind of just setting up a decent lap. I knew exactly where I was going wrong, particularly old hairpin. I was losing loads of time there. And then there was one lap that I hooked it up, but at the end of the lap, I got blocked a little, and then kind of just missed my braking point because the blocking kind of put me off. Because in a quali lap, you need 100% concentration. So that just put me off a little bit, missed my braking zone, and that was the end of that. And I was 4/10 up at that point, so I would have been looking at P5, P4 kind of area. But yeah, it is what it is.
Well, you had to accept it and move on, and I think that's the right mentality to go with. And going into race number 1, bit of an interesting race because for all the places you gained, you lost a couple in turn, but it looked so there you were not going to just take race 1 without giving it a fight.
No, absolutely not. I thought I'd put my elbows out a little bit more this week. Sometimes I can sit back and just go in the pack a little bit more, but this week I was like, no, I'm gonna be a bit more aggressive. It worked for the first half, and then second half I was just an idiot, got a couple of slowdowns, and that kind of ruined my race because as soon as you get one, then you have to drop back, and as soon as you're out of the line in this series, because it's so close, there's going to be a good 4 or 5 cars trying to pass you, and it just puts you really out of kilter. And then my tyres were gone at that point, and then yeah, just basically ended up in the same place, which is unfortunate, but you know, all learning.
Or indeed, plenty of learning there. But going into race number 2, I mean, you may have learnt a bit from race number 1, but race 2 only saw you gain 2 places in the end. You did make your way quite a way up the order, only then to fall backwards again. But how did you perhaps stop the rot of race 1?
Well, I tried to, but as you said, it really didn't work. Yeah, race 2 was just a bit of an unfortunate one. I was having a fantastic race. I think I gained 7 positions at the kind of peak, and I was having a brilliant battle with Isaac for like a good 2 laps, just fully side by side. And then I tried to move on Wayne, and I cut across him a little bit too much. Just a racing incident, my mistake really. Lost me all that ground. Tried to recover it again and again, and I kept losing it because of slowdowns and what have you, because I was getting slightly more frustrated. And then I made a small mistake. I can't remember what the corner's called. I think it's McLean's. Made a small mistake into there and just tapped Ben Gregory, and it lost him a couple of positions. So sorry for that. And then yeah, that was pretty much it. I was just praying for a good reverse grid draw.
Well, it didn't quite work out, and at one point you peaked all the way up in 9th place in race number 2, so definitely a lot of ground made to only lose some. But then when we had the draw and we saw the 15th place drawn out of the bowl, I bet that made you raise your eyebrows and think, you know what, there could be something magical in race number 3, particularly with rain potentially on the cards.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking if it's particularly heavy rain, which I'd been informed it was, then I know I have a chance. Kind of changeable conditions I'm not too good with, kind of wet into dry or dry into wet I'm not too good with, but if it's full wet, I'm kind of in my element there. I'm really happy kind of searching my way through the puddles. And it's a very nice way to get my 5th overall victory.
Oh, indeed. An absolutely brilliant drive to get an overall victory. And I believe, and we're quoting this from Mark Kent, who's been doing a little bit of historical research for us on the fly, I believe your last overall victory coming to...
This season at Brands, and there was a couple in the season before that as well.
Well, you see, that's why we always like to speak to the driver who will know at the end of the day where he took it. But still, even though it may have only been earlier on this season, all the way back in the early stages, regardless, an overall win is a huge achievement. And, well, to only have taken 5 in your extended time on the NXTCC, that shows the light gold dust. But more on that, in the early stages, we saw you take the lead off of William Guthrie, and we see the footage here of Guthrie trying to chase back after you. Were there points where you're thinking to yourself, okay, they're trying to pull me back into the group, I've got to be ready to try and cause them all to trip over each other, essentially?
Yeah, there's always that possibility. Obviously, the ideal way is what I did and just not include myself, not make any mistakes, and just run away. But I've definitely had races, such as Hockenheim 2 seasons ago, such as Brands, where I've had to make other people make the mistakes. And I'm perfectly capable of doing that, but I'd much rather relieve myself the stress of that and just pull away.
Well, you definitely made sure to alleviate yourself of the stress, like you say, and well, come the end out that final corner. I mean, it must have felt special, although I did notice, and I think some mates noticed, was there a slowdown towards the end of the race for yourself?
Yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't notice that. Yeah, there was. That's why I backed off a little bit. So the gap was 8 seconds, and it was pretty stable at that. And then I had a moment into the chicane, got the slowdown, and then after that, I was a little bit more conservative, so that's why the gap came down, just because I really didn't want to make any massive mistakes. And I just need to take home the win, which I did.
Well, you absolutely nailed it for the win, and a brilliant one at that. And it concludes your round number 8 on a high. We've still got 2 more rounds to go, and in a week's time, of course, we make our way from the heart of British motorsport to the home of it, Silverstone National. How are you feeling for our penultimate round?
Yeah, pretty confident. I've really bonded with the Veloster this season. It's been nice to drive. For me, far better than the Elantra was. I'm quite sad I didn't swap sooner. Yeah, I always enjoy Silverstone, but I think everybody does. It's always going to be close. I think it's a really good racing circuit, so I'm sure there'll be some very good races on the way.
Oh, we look forward to seeing how you fit in to the great racing that's due to come. And with that, Alex, just before I do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, of course. As normal, my parents always watching every week. I really appreciate it. Anybody else watching and commenting, it always helps NXTGEN, and all the admin team at NXTGEN who do a fantastic job holding all these leagues. And finally, as usual, you, Paul, for your fantastic commentary.
Well, Alex, we need to say a big thank you to you for not just your brilliant performances on the circuit today and inspiring performances of that, particularly in Race 3, but also for joining me in the interview room after all the racing. Savour the mode, enjoy it, 'cause you've absolutely done a fantastic job in taking that Race 3 win, and it'll be one for the memory books this season, I'm sure. But until then, my friend, have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you at Silverstone.
See you next week, Paul.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Alex Meredith, who absolutely pleased with that performance. Not happy with how qualifying went, nor races 1 and 2. With qualifying in the end, seeing him on a lap which would have been 4/10 faster than what he set, and well, that would have been enough to put him on the front 2 rows of the grid, theoretically. However, he got his head down and put it into the race. And in race number 1, for all the places he gained, he lost them, plus 2 more. And well, in race number 2, it was a rinse and repeat. He gained the best part of 6 places and then lost 4 of them to finish 13th. But with the reverse grid being announced as 15th place, and with some rain on the way, we're very happy with that, because he's one of those drivers who likes to be in stable conditions, whether it be wet or dry, and that's exactly what he got And as he made his way into race number 3, took the lead early on from William Guthrie. And more than the pictures in the background have told the tale, where everybody else was fighting and scrambling for second, Alex Murdiff had already decided to check out and run away for first. And that was a brilliant drive and his 5th overall win of his NXTCC career, and only his 2nd of this season. It goes to show you how far he's come from his humble origins in the Prime class. But we immediately then jump into our second interview, ladies and gentlemen. We've heard from one of our Orange Pro Class drivers. Now let's come to the other end of the field and speak to one of our Blue Am drivers. And we're going to be hearing from none other than Andy Gell, who now joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Andy, and well, what a fun day of racing for you today. Not just for yourself, but also the Quatermass Motorsport team. But for yourself out there, a top 5 in race number 2, and also fighting with some of your rivals further down the order in races 1 and 3. A lot of fun to be had.
Yeah, hey, Paul. Yeah, not too bad at all, to be honest with you. Yeah, podium I think it was P3 in race 2. I mean, that's the way I got sent anyway, so I assume it was. So, yeah, I mean, overall, decent night. Like you say, everyone's had a bit of a fun night. Me, first race didn't go swimmingly. A little bit of contact put me off. Then fighting it back to try and get some points back. I'm aiming for P5 in the championship this year. So, I know I'm not catching Nigel and Lewis, but if I can get P5, P4, they're in grabbing reach, I think. So yeah, that's where I'm aiming. So that's kind of where I'm aiming for. If I'm ahead of Mark and Sean, that's kind of what I'm aiming for. So I think race 1, I was ahead of Mark and just behind Sean. Race 2, I think ahead of both of them, and then race 3. For someone who usually enjoys the wet, the Audi would not play ball for me tonight at all. It just would not play ball. So, yeah, a couple of times where, a few little taps that put you around, and then a couple of times where, just due to the aquaplaning, the car was like, no, we're going this way now, please. And at that point, you're a passenger in the car, and you're just hoping that it regrips and doesn't hit the wall, to be honest with you, which thankfully it didn't, because that would have been a bit more of a painful pill to swallow. But, yeah, I mean, the team as a whole, like you say, have done really well. And again, I think it's been a podium for everyone that's here tonight. Unfortunately, Stanley's not very well, so I know the guys have already messaged, but they're going to watch it this one for you, mate. Hopefully you're feeling better. So, yeah, Mike and Ben both P1 in their class in race 3. So really, really happy with that.
Well, definitely a happy one. And if Stanley is listening right now, Stanley, I hope you feel better soon as well, because we need you back on the NXTCC grid, because that's where you definitely belong, good sir. But zeroing in a little bit more on yourself, Andy, this Donington Park circuit and the Audi, interesting combination, a very momentum-based circuit, even with the GP loop that some love, some loathe. But qualifying, 42nd overall, did it feel good out there in terms of the pace?
Yes and no. So to begin, at first, the car kind of settled in. You got like a lap or two on the base setup that you need to get it warm, and then it'll, around Donington at least, then it'll play ball. And that seemed to work, because the quali lap that I set was good. But this series, and to be fair, this track especially, is all about being in a tow. And if you lose your tow, which I did when I got span round, you lose. You can't gain it again in quali at that point. You're 3-4 tenths down the straight. Might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. You are losing tenths down the straight, and you've got 2 or 3 really decent straights where you need that tow is so beneficial. So after that, it was trying to get back into the tow, but when you're letting people through to try and then sneak back in behind them because they're on flying laps, they're pulling away, especially the Dalmonts. Tried to do it with a pair of the Dalmonts, and because they were towing each other along, I just couldn't catch up back up to after I let them through. And it's just one of them where it's, at the end, it's just, right, okay, call it. We've got a lap in, we're doing okay, pace seems all right, but like I say, if people are in a train, you're not catching them, and I think that's what happened for a lot of people in quali, to be honest. So, pace felt okay, but the Audi, despite the fact that it really likes long straights, just wouldn't hook up. It just wouldn't hook up around here. Like I say, it was taking a couple of laps to get it warm, and then it doesn't like the especially the first sector, does not like it at all. Mike and Ben were able to tame it a little more than I could. I just struggled with it tonight, to be honest with you. So yeah, it was all right, but it wasn't a good showing, let's say.
Well, it may not have been the perfect showing in qualifying, and race number 1 had a few bumps and scrapes, so perhaps we'll skip over race 1. But race number 2, take us through that, because race number 1, you started right towards the back of the race 2 grid, but in race number 2, you weren't going to let an opportunity to chase down the podium go astray. No.
I mean, it's in this. I mean, I say it in every series I run in, but this one really does highlight it that you can't give up. You've got to dig deep when it's not quite going right, because it swings on a dime. And race 2 was what was happening to me in race 1 was happening to everyone else in race 2, and it just seemed to open up for me, which was it was really good to see that. And we worked together a bit as a team to try and keep Mike ahead of Dylan, which, to be honest, was my main focus that race. Was, can I keep Dylan and then keep the guy in third, name escapes me, behind me, to try and help Mike get as far ahead as he can and get as many points on them as he can, especially as Mike's missing next round. So we were trying to get Mike as many points as we could, just playing that team game, being that rear gunner. Dylan is faster than me, so I knew he would get through, but it was very much that, try and stick with him, and if I can get back past him and slow him down again, do that. He's probably not going to be happy when he hears this, to be honest with you, because he always comes and joins us in our voice chat. But I think he knows that's kind of the game. If we're around, we're going to play. So it's, at the end of the day, you've got to play your team game. Mike's in a good chance for a good championship finish, even if potentially not the win based off missing next round. But and same with Ben as well. If Matt Cheverton's behind me again, I know I'm not going to keep him behind me for long, but that is kind of what I look at. I'm not looking where I am. I'm more looking at where them guys are to try and help the team out. So I'll be honest, I didn't know I'd finish third until I got sent my weight for it. So I was like, oh, okay, that's a good result then. So yeah, and then we were into race 3, which threw us a curveball, didn't it? Let's be fair.
Or indeed a curveball with the rain, and as you mentioned at the start of this interview, in race number 3, the car just not wanting to cooperate with your intentions in conditions you normally go well with. I mean, what was it with the car that didn't want to cooperate? Was it just a face full of, say, understeer when you wanted it to turn, or the fact that at certain points of the circuit we expected grip, there was none? Just take us through what it's like as a driver.
It's quite strange. So, like I say, the Audi doesn't like the first sector at the best of times. It doesn't. It will understeer through the kink down into the old hairpin. And in the wet, that was deadly. Yeah, and it would change as it will do. Rain. It's raining. The track's getting either wetter or dry. The grip does vary, but it just did not like it at all. If you let off an inch, it was going. Which is what cost me twice. It cost me it took me 2 laps to figure out what was doing. First time I thought it was just the back end snapping because of the water there, but when it did it the second time, I was like, right, okay, there's a correlation here. It's me lifting off just to try and get it to turn in a little bit more. I'll be honest, that's a habit I have with the Porsche from what I usually run, because I usually run the GT3s, a bit more newer to the TCRs. So, yeah, it was a bit of a habit I had to try and get myself out of very quickly because I knew it was going to cause that problem. And then, yeah, like I say, because I was having to overspeed the car more than I was comfortable through that. It then meant in her old hairpin, I was on the anchors just trying to get it to stop. In fact, I think throwing an anchor out the back of the car probably would have slowed it down more, to be honest with you. So, yeah, it just meant that I was hemorrhaging lap time, and then it was not liking it through the change in the chicane, but again, I think everybody was suffering with that just because it's wet, rubbered in track that you're going across, so you do naturally just lose a bit of grip. But yeah, from a driving point of view, it was very tricky because the track didn't seem to yield the same grip each time round, which is good from a simulator point of view because that is what it's like in real life. But yeah, it's a very hard thing to keep in your mind of, right, okay, it's possibly not going to be the same this time around, especially when you're fighting with the car that's behind you because you're the one going through first, so you're showing them where the grip is. If you're behind a car, it's a little easy because you can see where their car's starting to slide. You can adjust for it. But when you're the leader of the little pack that you're in, it means you're the guinea pig for everybody, which, like I say, in a car that's not enjoying the conditions as it is very difficult to play ball with, and I think cost me a few little places. But like I say, I still had fun, and like I say, as long as I can aim towards my little aim of 5th or 4th in the championship, then happy days. And if not, 6th is still a good finishing position overall. So.
Well, it's always great to have targets, and like you say, as long as you have fun and keep moving towards those targets, then you've had a good night. So on that basis, 2 rounds remain. Silverstone National is next. What can we expect from you there?
I mean, the Legacy National Circuit went quite well on a whole, so hopefully quite well. I mean, it's a slightly different circuit, that is true, but in the whole, it's pretty much the same circuit, really. So there's not much different. Yeah, there's the reworked start because obviously we're on the new Sir Lewis Hamilton starting straight and that, but well, I say new, you know what I mean. It's only been there since, I think Stanley said he hadn't been born when the old circuit was reworked, so that's quite telling there how old that is when I say new. But yeah, so I think hopefully, as long as we're the sort of weather that we're at now, even if it's a little wet, to be honest, hopefully it'll be decent because, again, the car seemed to suit more at Silverstone, so we'll see. I'm hoping for good things, but like I say, you never know till the day, do you? So we'll see how it goes, but hopefully pretty decent.
Well, we look forward to seeing you give it your all at Silverstone in a couple of weeks' time. But just before we do let you go, Andy, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, so first and foremost to all the guys from Team Chisholm. I've seen them in the chat that have come to visit and say hi. So good, nice to see them. They're my work colleagues. Obviously to Mike and Ben, you've done absolutely fantastic tonight, gents. So very well done. All the guys at Quatermass, they do put a lot of work in for us to come racing. All our sponsors, they give us the ability to actually go racing. And as always, matey, thank you very much to you for putting this on, because without your amazing commentary, people wouldn't come and watch it. The NXTGEN admins for actually organising it, because I know it's not easy, especially how we're split this year. Having the 2 lobbies, it must be a nightmare for them. So really appreciate the work they put in behind the scenes. And then to everyone who's come and watched, thank you very much, because if you didn't, we wouldn't get to do this.
Well, Andy, I mean, we have to say thank you to you as well for being part of the grid that always keeps it interesting and right at the tip of the spear of the Quatermass Motorsport team. We look forward to plenty more from yourself and the team in 3 weeks' time at Silverstone. But until then, my friend, thank you for joining me for an interview and have a great rest of your evening.
And you, Paul. See you soon, mate.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Quatermass Motorsports, Andy Chell, our Blue Lobby AM driver today, who's all here about having the fun in an Audi that definitely didn't want to cooperate in the rain, and we've seen that in the pictures in the background whilst we've been speaking to him. However, on the upside, qualifying, it didn't quite click together. In the end, when he was on a lap, couldn't quite get into the momentum, and by the time he'd lost that momentum, well, he'd lost the key time he needed in order to be able to try and move forward. So wasn't too happy with the 42nd place start on the overall grid. Race number 1, a bit of a write-off of a race, but still kept his head down and knew that you can't give up because you've got to try and score well across all 3 races. And in race number 2, we saw exactly that, making his way all the way out through the field and potentially finishing on the podium there. We're waiting for verification on that result in the AM class, but absolutely flew high did Andy Cho in race number 2 and was hoping for even more of that in race number 3. But unfortunately, the rain and an Audi that didn't want to grip together meant that twice he was in the podium position and twice he fell out of it, as the car just did not like what he wanted to do and didn't want to do what he was asking it to do, but still plenty to learn from for Mr. Chell. And without a doubt, going to Silverstone, well, he fancied his chances there, given he went quite well at Silverstone International when we visited the Legacy Circuit in round number 6 in place of Croft, and we look forward to seeing what he and the team can bring to the table, because as much as he's chasing his own aspirations this season, he's also chasing supporting his teammates, including, of course, Mike Barber in the Pro-Am and also in the Pro Blue category, Ben Benneyworth, as they do battle with their rivals all the way to the season's conclusion. And that is what a true team player is all about. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now get ready for our final interview of the day, and we're going to be hearing from Nigel Stott very shortly, and the story of the man who definitely in the AM class today had some rather mixed performances over the course of the duration, because races 1 and 2 all clicked together, but race number 3, it didn't quite work out. But enough about us talking about it. Let's hear from the man himself and his thoughts on the racing, as he joins me now in the interview room. Good evening to you, Nigel, and well, for a day at Donington's Day that had mixed conditions in the final race of the day, it didn't quite be a mixed day for yourself in races 1 and 2. Back-to-back Blue Lobby AM wins. Just unfortunately couldn't quite make it 3 in a row in the final race today. But what were your thoughts of the racing?
That was good fun. The rain wasn't so much fun, but it's just got to try and survive it, really. Just score as many points as you can.
Oh, indeed. Survival's always key, like you say. But before the rain came, I mean, you were really an unstoppable force out there. Qualifying, second place in class, 31st overall. Looked quite hooked up in qualifying.
Yeah, it was, car feels pretty good here, even with, like, having the P1 weight for being first in the championship. It was quite good fun driving around. I thought I put a pretty good time in, and then I saw Mason's time, and I was like, oh, never mind then. But I thought I'd just try and limit the, because like the last 2 rounds been sort of caught in other people's accidents, and Lewis Mason's been catching up a bit, so I was just sort of focusing on trying to stop the rot sort of thing and just limit the damage, which I think I probably have done this round. But yeah, when I saw him spinning off, that was sort of egged me on a bit.
Well, definitely, like you say, with the form that yourself and Championship rival Lewis Mason have come into this round, you've needed a big haul of points. Qualifying may not have had it, but in the races, it definitely had it. Because race number 1, it all went wrong for Lewis Mason. For yourself, however, it all went right. That must have felt a bit of a validation that you are still in the hunt for this championship.
Yeah, a bit of that. Yeah, when he got spun off so early in the race, I just sort of focused on, like, don't get involved in any silly accidents with people that may or may not be in the same lobby as me. Just focus on getting the win in and sort of put the pressure back on him a bit again, instead of the pressure being on me, which is what I did, and I was pretty happy with that.
Well, it all went right in race number 1, and in race number 2, they may have put all the weight back in your car once again, but it wasn't going to stop you from making it 2 wins out of 2. A classic lights out to checker flag win from yourself.
Yeah, and it was P4 in, I forgot to say, it was P4 in class. That gave me P4 weight for race 2. So I was sort of just thinking, oh, there's going to be even more weight in the car now. But the the Honda it does get on with the weight pretty well. But if I get stuck behind Audis, they seem to be able to have the power with the weight. They seem to be alright. But yeah, it was just basically the same again, really. Just trying not to get any, even though I ended up getting involved in an incident, because I was sort of trying to finish podium overall. But that didn't go so I think I finished fourth again overall, so that was good. And then I was just also trying to focus on sort of trying to score points in both championships, but at the same time more focusing on the AM championship and winning that again, because I don't want to be sort of fighting to try and get a podium in overall and then throw away that and an AM win. So I sort of just focused on trying to score points again, and like I said, putting even more pressure on Lewis then.
Well, makes sense. Putting your focus on the championship that means the most to you, which is the AM Championship Battle, of course. And in the end, making it 2 class wins out of 2. And then race number 3, we have to talk about it a little bit. What went wrong in race number 3?
What went right, to be honest? I think I lost it early on. I think it was probably maybe the tyres were still a bit cold or something. But I saved it one way and then it shot me off the other way, which wasn't brilliant. And then I was doing the same again, really, sort of just like I said earlier, surviving, but also trying to focus on just scoring, like trying to limit the damage once I'd spun. And then I wasn't listening to myself on the last lap, and then took a risk trying to go side by side with Fraser. There was a bit where I thought, should I back out? And then I saw the back of his car in my mirror, and I thought, no, I'm nearly in front. But then I obviously caught the wet bit, slid into him, and then slid off and lost 2 or 3 places where maybe I should have just backed off, took third, and limited the damage. But then I guess I suppose that's that old Senna quote, and if you don't go for the gap.
Oh, true. Well, it didn't quite work out in the end in your final lap battle of Fraser Rostons, but sometimes you have to take the risks. And like you're saying, Senna's quote there, if you don't go for a gap, that's quoted time and time again. But on the upside, with the results you've had today, you've scored more points than your rival Lewis Mason provisionally, and it does mean you open up your championship lead a little bit more. 2 rounds to go now. Next up is Silverstone National. What can we expect from you there?
I always liked Silverstone. Obviously, it's my home track. Only lived, I think, not even an hour away from it. So I know, and it being an airfield, if it does rain, there won't be the undulations like there is here at Donington. So that would be probably help a bit as well. But it's always a good track, and I believe we're on the old sort of like the old pit lane, isn't it? Like that's the usual one they usually use in touring cars. That's probably the version I prefer a bit more than the newer bit, because less corners. So, and obviously with that shape, there's no really any tight corners. So with the weight, I can sort of keep the car going a bit. So hopefully that will help with trying to finish as high as I can again, and just keep trying to score points, and just keep trying to sort of just finish. Like hopefully I could get the champion, hopefully get enough points to make it so it's put all the pressure on Lewis Mason for the final round.
Well, looking to mount the pressure on Lewis as of our next round, looking for a big score. And we look forward to seeing whether you can make that happen. But Nigel, just before I do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Well, even though he didn't race tonight, Stephen Fry for being my teammate in that, and for Alex Everett for letting me in the team. And everyone else at Crest Autosport. Everyone at NXTGEN, including yourself, for doing a great broadcast as you always do, and for Jamie and that for putting on a great league, and for everyone racing in it. So it'd be quite boring if it was just 1 or 2 people in it. So good, thanks for everyone racing in it and for people watching, and hopefully we do some more good racing at Silverstone, and so you can do another great broadcast.
Well, Nigel, it's an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. It always is. And thank you for the kind words there. We look forward to plenty more from yourself at Silverstone in 3 weeks' time. But until then, my friend, enjoy the points you scored tonight. You definitely have been the man to beat in the Blue AM class at Donington. And we look forward to seeing whether you can keep that up in our next round. But otherwise, my friend, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you, and you. Bye.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Nigel Stock, our final interviewee of today. And we're talking about there the contrasting fortunes. But throughout it all, one goal has really stood above everything else, which is make sure Lewis Mason cannot continue to cut into his lead. And he did exactly that today, albeit a bit of fortune coming his way come the end of qualifying into race number 1. He was out-qualified by the Aztec Racing driver, but in the end, for Lewis, unfortunately, an early instance saw him ejected all the way down the order, and Nigel was able to capitalise on that to make it the first-class win of the day. Race number 2, a rinse and repeat from race number 1. Despite some pressure growing from Mark Hughes from behind, but Hughes in the end involved in an incident of his own, and therefore it did mean that the Cresta Motorsport driver was able to make it 2 from 2. But race number 3, as he mentioned, that's where it all went wrong, or in other words, where did anything actually go right? And he was talking about the fact there that things did not click together, albeit towards the end, the devil on the shoulder he gave into the devil on his shoulder, I should say, and went for a move on Fraser Austin that didn't quite work out, and what could have been a guaranteed podium suddenly slipped back to a 5th place finish in the Blue Am class. But sometimes you have to dare to dream, and with that, he still has outscored his championship rival, and with 2 rounds to go, I think the confidence is growing for the Cresta Motorsport driver that if he can have a solid round at Silverstone, he may just give himself plenty of breathing room by the time we get to our season finale at Brands Hatch in over a month and a half's time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for this evening. A big thank you to all 3 of our interviewees. We've heard from the Pro Class in Orange Lobby of Alex Meredith, the WSS Racing driver there, bringing home his 5th ever NXTCC overall win in race number 3, and well done to him for that. We also heard from the Blue Am Classes Quater Mass Motorsport Andy Chell, who enjoyed the racing today and was chasing the podiums, particularly in race number 2. And, well, we also heard there from just now Nigel Stock for Crest Autosport. Back-to-back wins in races 1 and 2. Couldn't quite make it a hat-trick, but still be very happy with his performances and knowing that that championship crown is inching ever closer in his battle with Lewis Mason. A big thank you to all 3 of our interviews. Well done to them on all their results, and we look forward to plenty more interviews at Silverstone in a round's time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately we don't quite have the provisional tables after what has been our 8th round available, but we will bring you up to date on the points when we start the broadcast in a couple of weeks' time at Silverstone. So with that, it does mean it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, about what we do on the scenes and behind them, and how you can potentially be on the grid with us at Next Gen Racing, well, for all that and more, we definitely recommend you check out our official website first and foremost, and that is at nextgenracing.co.uk. Website appears on screen here, right in here today, and well, it's never been a better time to be on the grid at Next Gen Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all, and all of our relevant information is on the website. And of course, you can use this website to join our official Discord, which is the beating heart of the Next Gen Racing community. But if you don't want to go to our website necessarily, perhaps you're more of a social media person, you can, of course, go to our Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. Well, there you can find similar information to our website and also a little bit more about the guys and girls behind the scenes that make up the staff and admin members at Next Gen Racing and what they do not just on the virtual circuit, but also on the real-life circuit, with a good number of our staff and admin members being real-life racing drivers, track marshals, or stewards. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, PowerMaxed, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport, Sam Cases UK, Falconer PC Builds and Support, Benji Sim Photos, and of course our title sponsor for this season, Doble Motorcycles. And if you are in the market to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, then why not consider Doble Motorcycles, the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer, who having won numerous awards over its extensive history, including 3 Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year awards. Well, the Doble family-run business prides itself on customer service, and it shows. Add to this the family's rich racing history, and you can be certain that you are going to be in pole position to receive the best possible quality customer service from lights out to checker flag as part of your purchase. So if you'd like to know more, then do check out their website today, and that's at doble.co.uk. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now turn our attentions to next time, and in round number 9 on Tuesday, the 16th of September 2025, Silverstone is where we head once again, but in the present era Silverstone, our drivers will be taking on its short but sweet national layout. Only 6 corners, all very critical to success over a given lap. With such a short lap and so many laps and so many drivers out there, it will truly feel as though it is touring cars meet NASCAR at the home of British motorsport. But who exactly will emerge from there and go into our season finale on a high and with momentum on the side in the championship? We'll tune in then on Tuesday the 16th of September to find out. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit and Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, that's all from us here at Next Gen Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all.